As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is August 20th. It's Tuesday. We appreciate all you. We're back one day closer to the NFL season. We need like a countdown. Like we got to get that. Maybe we can get a countdown in like the top corner every day. It changes.
Little clock.
Yeah, like the
BMAC clock.
Yeah,
the BMAC clock.
Because we're a day closer, one day closer to the last preseason game for the Lions. We got a packed show today, but it's a lot of stuff. I mean, we're talking college football in the second hour. We're talking NFL, around the NFL. You know, we'll get into players that are under the most pressure in the NFL. I know ESPN has an article coming out with who they have on each team under the most pressure. A lot to get to. Practice was today. Dan Campbell spoke to the media. We'll get to that as well. I'm feeling good, boys. Klotz will be joining us in a little bit here. We got the squad, and we're ready to roll.
Pumped up.
Feeling good, boys. Got my fantasy draft tomorrow too, boys. So we're gonna have to lock in.
What's your pick?
As a team, I think I'm fourth in this league. So
it's a good spot.
Yep.
It's a good spot.
Not bad. Not bad.
I had actually Spencer, who cuts my hair. He texted me yesterday and he said he had the number one pick in a draft where it's like those two QB drafts that they get more points as quarterbacks. And he said, "Who should I take?" I told him Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes. Those are the two. I thought.
Take Josh Allen and go get yourself like Tyreek Hill or something, and then you're living. That deal, oh my gosh.
He said he already has Stroud. He already has Stroud. So I just told him, at least if you can take Josh Allen, then you have those two. The rushing with Josh, you'll be all right.
Take Mahomes.
I got mine in a week? This week I got in my fantasy draft. So
we've got one coming up. I think we're all in the league together with that
one too,
with the heavyweights and stuff. So I think that's coming up in the next week. Pumped up. I love fantasy football.
You're really taking Josh Allen over Mahomes? Come on now.
It depends. It depends. I think Mahomes has a big year, but Josh Allen on the ground is he runs for an insane amount of yards and way more rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, but Mahomes about to have an MVP caliber season, and he's finally got weapons around him. He's seen even last year what he was putting up in fantasy with bad weapons around him, or not a lot of weapons rather. So I don't know, man. It's tough.
Those are the two, man. I told Spencer Josh because he, especially in a league where quarterbacks score more points, I was like, man, the dude's gonna have 800 rushing yards, 700 whatever it is a year. But if it's me, like in this league, I don't want to say it, but I'll say it anyway. Like Mahomes better not be on that board. I'll just say that. I'm going after Mahomes. That's MVP right there. But yeah, like I said, a lot to get to. I want to start off by just kind of giving some injury updates because some guys were getting injured. Maybe we got some news about next week, guys potentially coming back. We'll start with some of the secondary players. Just want to show the people information here. Booner put it out. Ennis Rakestraw. Here's some injury updates. Ennis Rakestraw still dealing with the back injury.
Well, no, wait a second. I need to make that very clear because there was a mistake on that. When I put back, that meant he is back at practice. There were some people who thought that was a back.
Yeah, now you can't put that next to it.
But dude, you have to think about this. When you look at all the other ones, limited, trending the right way. I didn't put anyone else's injury. I literally just put what the status is.
Yeah, because when I see back, I know he's dealing with an ankle. I was like, like what happened to his back? All right, that makes me feel a lot better. So he's back at practice.
Yes, he is
there. Thank gosh. All right, you scared me there.
I mean,
Boone.
Someone commented underneath and was like, "Can you clarify this?" And I did.
Yeah,
and the tweet underneath had more views than this one, just because people wanted to know about his back.
Thank goodness. Okay.
First thing seeing it, I thought the same thing too. So.
Yeah. Well, Carlton Davis limited,
Learn.
Amik Robertson limited. Those two participated. Terran Arnold trending the right way. Chance he's back next week. And also, he's not the only guy that'll be back next week. We got some news on the Jahmyr Gibbs, and also we got some news on DJ Reader and Kevin Zeitler, some guys that have been out. DJ Reader, they're expecting him to get back after this preseason game. So you know what? That is huge news The Lions, the big signing of the offseason, DJ Reader expected to be back. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Kevin Zeitler, Rodrigo, and Dan Skipper also to be back next week. So expected to be ready for week 1, fellas, when the season starts. That's what's trending right now. Anything, there could be setbacks, but as of right now, that's their plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's just the biggest thing. Obviously, we've been looking forward to the revamped secondary and obviously giving Hutch some help on this defensive line. And the guy that we go out and get possibly missing week 1 is obviously never a good story. But to hear all these guys, even the guys on offense, Gibbs, Laporta, that they're going to get back in the swing of things and be ready, couldn't be better news, man. Hopefully these guys are all healthy come week 1 and they're ready to go.
It's huge.
Yeah. There was the moment last week too, though, like where all those injuries started happening. The Jahmyr Gibbs thing, and everyone started kind of going down a little bit, and everyone's like holding their breath, like, oh no, like here we go, boys, we're getting into this thing now. And it would, like, typically you're like in the season and start getting some injuries, and it was just like everyone, like it was like the same day, Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, pec, Rakestraw, ankle, Jahmyr Gibbs, his hammy, Sam's been out with the hammy. You're just like, what's going on? But it's good. It's good that these boys they're going to be back. I think everyone he named that he said is going to be back for week 1, I'm pretty sure was on that list. Like, I don't think there's any other injured guys outside of, like, obviously Emmanuel Mosley, but I think everyone else is pretty locked in there. So, like, hopefully it sounds like everyone is expected to play versus the Rams. That's huge news. Maybe the DJ Reader thing might be the only one, but besides that.
Yeah, week 1, man, I can't wait. I mean, and you want Jahmyr Gibbs back. I mean, I know it was a hamstring, and at the time we were a little concerned, but it's good news that he's expected to be back this week. So, also had Hendon Hooker, which we'll get into in a little bit, expected to start. That was my wish yesterday on the show. Start that man. And Dan Campbell, they wanted to start him last week, but we'll get into that when we get some of these Dan clips going. But to start off here, I do want to bring up some of what happened today at practice, just to give you some recap. We don't have to dive in because the doc wrote an entire article about it, which you can check out on sportsillustrated.com/NFL/Lions. And Isaiah Williams showed out today, continued to make some plays. Dan Campbell's given that man some love. And he seems like a player that he's just sticking around and continues to stick around along with some other guys, which we will get to. Isaac Ukwu being one of those guys, Booner, which he just continues to stick around. The guy that you're a very big fan of. Yep. What was it
reported Isaac Ukwu had another good day today?
I didn't read it here, but I'm sure. I mean, I'm not looking at one day and judge. I mean, Dan Campbell said it out. It was directly from the horse's mouth. They love him. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened today. He's not in the article, I don't think. No, he's not. But it's not a bad thing. Jake Bates is, and he continued to roll today. He had a strong day. He went 3 of 4 in his first his kicks, missing a 38-yarder, but he connected on 48, 43, 38. So Jake Bates he's still playing playing to the level he was playing in the preseason. That's good. Jake Bates is playing well. Isaiah Williams had a good day today. Guys like Brock Wright, Craig Reynolds had pretty good days today. And then Brian Branch is back. So he was making some plays. So that's great news because I think Brian Branch forced a fumble on Jameson Williams. So Brian Branch also back at practice, fellas. It's huge. You got Brian Branch back. Isaiah Williams making some plays. And it's funny because the Isaiah Williams stuff, Dan keeps getting asked about it. And every time they ask him, like, oh, are you going to go outside the organization and get a receiver? He always replies with, like, hopefully we have it here. Hopefully we have that guy here. I told you, this guy wants DPJ or Darius Fountain, someone to show up as that true X wide receiver, because as of right now, that's really the only 2 guys they got in terms of, like, true X's. And he even had a little snippet in the press conference where I don't want to overreact to it, but he said, like, it's about showing up in these preseason games and kind of getting better. So maybe it's just partially disappointment from Dan Campbell about how DPJ and Darius Fountain just haven't really showed up in the preseason game, but Isaiah Williams is out here just making plays all the time. So yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see when cuts come around who they add, because I think they're probably going to have to add someone going at this rate. I mean, I haven't read anything about DPJ today. Haven't read anything about Darius Fountain today. So it's looking like they're going to outsource that true X wide receiver position. That's what it seems like, at least.
I mean, Dan's probably saying that too, because like he's probably looking at the outside, the free agent wide receiver room, and there's not too many names out there. So having some hope in one of your young guys to possibly bloom, like I expect he's trying to take that route, because like you said, there's you got like Michael Thomas, Hunter Renfrow, to name a few. Like there's not too many options out there. And to say to bring up DPJ, Booner, I'm going to give you credit, because you kind of called it even before it happened, that we were all like too lackadaisical about him and just expecting that he's going to fall into this spot and win it. And clearly that hasn't happened. So DPJ obviously has been somewhat of a disappointment. Not saying we're going to rule him out yet. There's still some time for him to win that spot, but yeah, not really a lot of options for them to even look at outside of wide receivers, or for outside wide receivers rather.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. It's like just the thing with, like, I think Dan, and it's the same thing with me. Like the DPJ stuff, it's not that I didn't want it to work out. Like I wanted DPJ to work out. It was just like you could tell what was happening in the room and what was happening in the building. Like, hey, this is not good. Like DPJ is supposed to be like that vet, and he's supposed to be someone who has been good in the NFL, and he is not showing it. So I think what's going to happen, and I think what Brad and Dan and they're waiting for, is they're just waiting to see who gets cut and see who's available. Because at the end of the day, if we're being realistic, DPJ is probably not a guy that you're like very confident on this roster. But there are probably, like, if you so let's just put an example here. Say DPJ is a cut guy. That means there's other wide receivers around the NFL who will get cut, and they're probably better than DPJ. There's probably a handful of guys who are going to end up getting cut around the NFL of deeper wide receiver rooms. Like, think about that. DPJ is a potential cut guy, and he's not even that, like, we're like, he's not that good. There are going to be potential cut guys around the NFL with rooms that are in 6, 7, 8 wide receivers deep. And you're going to be like, yeah, they're clearly better than DPJ. And they had a good camp and they played well in the preseason. Like, that's going to happen. Like a Robert Woods. Like, there's going to be guys out there who get cut. And you're like, yep, he can play. Like a Noah Brown. Like there's a bunch of different names who like are on the verge of, they're going to have to find a new team in the next 2 weeks. So I think that Dan and them are just waiting. And you know what might actually happen? They might go give a 6th-round pick or a late pick for a player that was going to get cut and potentially picked up by someone else, just to say, hey, we'll take him now. So, and we're not going to cut him, and we're going to keep him on our roster. Like there are scenarios like that. Like Dan said today that him and Brad have been on the phones and they are looking around for the best wide receivers around the NFL right now. Like, it's not that they're just sitting there. So it's not a victory lap that I like, but it's a realistic one, boys. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's when we come with these takes sometimes, but people come at me a little bit and they're like, Booner, what are you talking about? And I get a little hate in the chat. Little people come at me, but when I say these things, it's like, I am the leader of the Booner Pet. I want every single, I get called the biggest slappy in the world. I want every single player on this team and roster to be the best player of all time. And so it hurts me. It pains me more to have to go 2 months ago to say, I don't think DPJ is going to work out. It pains me. It hurts. Like my insides like shrivel up and I almost die in real life.
Yeah. Almost die in real life.
Well, let's hear Dan directly. This is from Gina Trautman, WXYZ. Appreciate her for this footage.
Shout out.
But I want to play this clip of Dan, his explanation on kind of that wide receiver 3-4 spot and why Khalif Raymond, even though he is their 3rd best wide receiver, like, certain packages you might not be able to put him at the X spot. But let's hear it from Dan Campbell directly. Here he is.
Yeah, I think the idea has always been, we love Leaf as a returner, and Leaf brings a different skill set to the receiver position. He's got a little gadgetry. He's got some quickness underneath, and he's a returner. And to maximize both, boy, you'd love to, he's 20 plays a game, 25 plays a game. And so we would rather not play him 65 plays a game, but we will if we have to. So yeah, he's receiver 3 right now. And that's fine. But that's why it would be nice to have somebody step up, because that just helps the room. And I think it makes everybody a little more potent. That's all. But yes, we trust Leaf very much. He is.
Yeah. And I think to his point, like, they love Leaf. Dude's reliable. Hey, Khalif makes plays. Can't deny he makes plays. He's just not, at least especially at this point, and not that he's old, but body shape too. He's not a big receiver. He's kind of like Dan said, or you can return the football. He's reliable. You could get him involved in like trick plays, and he can make plays with the football. Yeah. But he's not someone that you're going to heavily rely on, like as like he said, 60 plays unless they absolutely have to. So that's why, like to what we were saying earlier, they really want DPJ or Darius Fountain to work out. I just think at this point, I don't know. They're gonna have to someone's gonna have to have a big game on Saturday for confidence to be built.
Well, maybe Hendon Hooker playing the whole game will actually be able to showcase some of the wide receivers too. But yeah, I agree. Go on, Boo.
I was gonna say, Dan mentioned, someone asked Dan, they're like, are you guys comfortable with just moving? Like, if you guys need to put on the field, obviously with no X wide receiver, but you can just throw on there Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Khalif. Like, how comfortable are you with? And he was like, we'll find a way to work with those three. Like, we can do it. Like, those guys are all expandable. Like, they could do whatever. So like, I don't think they're in a situation like Dan said there. Like, they're not in a situation to where it's we just have to keep guys. I think they do have a little flexibility to where it's like, hey, if guy like Isaiah Williams has been literally the only one to where like in preseason games you're like, oh, that's a dude. Like Caden Davis at the touchdown. I just don't know if there's a guy like consistently going into the third week to where if he performs, you're like, yeah. Unless DPJ goes out there and has like 8 catches for a touchdown and like 80 yards or 90 yards, and he just like finally shows up. I just like do you guys really trust? Even if DPJ has a couple catches, like I'll ask you guys, like, do you guys trust DPJ right now? Because you guys, like, you know what I mean? Like, would you trust him back to where you guys were a month or two ago if he has just a couple catches this week and shows a little bit?
I mean, not like, excuse me, not a couple catches, but like if he goes out there and makes some solid plays, ends 5-6 catches, yeah, I think I would, because like I just said, I think we might be writing him off a little too early. Like there's still some time for him to work out. Obviously, like you said, we were kind of all lackadaisical thinking he's just going to win this spot right away. But I don't think I'm writing him off too early. I still think he can bounce back. And if he has a good game and shows some things, I would feel at least better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you. Because it's not like I've lost completely. I've lost every ounce of faith. I just think to say, Jeff, do you feel as confident now as you did? No, but I'm not out on DPJ. It's not like the dude just forgot how to play football. I don't think he's acclimated himself correctly. Like I thought he'd be way further along. If I'm being honest, I don't even think they cut him. I think they keep him, but he might not even. If they sign someone that's better, maybe he just doesn't play at all. I don't know. I mean, unless they cut him and keep Isaiah. Like I don't know how that works. I mean, you traded for him. You traded I know that doesn't necessarily matter all the time. But I try not to overlook too much into preseason. We have guys that show out in preseason and become nothing in the league, and guys maybe that don't. So I have to pick and choose. Will I have more faith if he has a big game? Yeah. But even if he does, it's like, okay, he's still struggled the last, couple, like probably 2 months, 3 months now. Yeah. So I'm just going to let it kind of play out. I still think, he's going to go out there. Maybe he's a wide receiver 5, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm not completely out on DPJ, but I'm lower than I originally was. I'll say that. That's where I'm at now.
That's fair.
Like, I think he's still better than Darius Fountain. Like, I'm sorry. As a player, I think he is. Like, if both got cut, who would be picked up sooner?
Darius Fountain.
No, he would not.
I'd probably say DPJ, but I still think it's close. I don't think it's like very far-fetched. I mean, some team could easily see what Fountain did. He's still very young, so they're hand in hand.
There's better wide receivers who are going to get cut out there than DPJ has performed. It's not even just the preseason games. It's just like training camp in general. Like, he hasn't showed up. We've been to multiple training camps, and how many times can you say you were like, oh, DPJ? Like, not once. Like, I've never once in 4 practices that we went to saw DPJ play and was like, what? Like, okay, they're like, not once. Like, the only time I've seen DPJ plays is over social media and the Lions posting it. That's it. Like, today they posted it. He made 2 catches in practice today. Like, that's the only time I've seen DPJ plays. And it's like, we've been there multiple times. We've seen 2 preseason games now, and he's just like, he's made a couple catches, but like big plays, no, he hasn't given you much. And maybe they look at him. I don't know. I just feel like this whole situation with the wide receiver room, I feel like I said it yesterday. it's like the only thing on this Lions team I feel like I just cannot get a grasp on, and I have no clue. Like Dan, like usually Dan's honest, and he was honest today, and he was like, we're looking for people. Like Brad's on the phones. Like, and when he says that, that means like he just doesn't like what's going on. And like, yeah, Isaiah Williams, I said on Saturday, as soon as the game was over, Isaiah Williams is a lock. And then you hear Dan, honest Dan Campbell, HDC. That man comes out and is like, yeah, like Isaiah Williams, great player, but he's more of a slot guy. And then like, okay, maybe they're not looking for a slot. It's just like they're obviously trying to figure out something in that room, and I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone can say. I don't think there's one person in this world besides Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell who can tell you what's going on. It's the crazy. It's like the biggest mystery of all time.
Would it like worry you, obviously, if you're gonna go out? I mean, given this guy is a wide receiver 4, but to pick up a wide receiver so late and then just kind of hope he gets acclimated to the offense like that and even like makes a difference. Like, would you rather just trust keeping a guy in house and giving him, a couple more weeks maybe to work things out, rather than going out and signing or maybe even having to trade for a guy and then who knows what happens from there? And I don't even know, like, obviously right now you don't know the options, but like you keep saying, Boone, there's going to be a lot of wide receivers out there that are going to be better in DPJ, but like, who knows? Like,
well, I mean, people to this, Nick, shout out Nick. He says, I think it should be noted that Goff was throwing him today and Kirby Joseph was covering him. I have the clip. I wanted to find it so people can see it because I didn't see
a couple plays.
But this is on Kirby, but Jared Goff throwing him the football. It was a nice little catch. I mean, again, you're not going to base everything off one catch, but it's something that I'm not going to like overreact to and say the dude just can't play football, but he has. I'd be lying, Boone, if I didn't say he's been disappointing. Taking everything into account, like I thought he'd make a bigger impact.
To answer your question too, Gentry, with that, like I wouldn't be like nervous. Like if they were to pick someone up, I think it would be because the guy has been performing at camp and the guy has been performing in preseason games. Like you look at the Texans room's not even just Robert Woods, but I think Noah Brown there. Like they do have a couple of guys that like you're like, yeah, they've been performing and in practice they've been good. It's just you just can't keep all of these guys. And I think there's a couple rooms around the NFL who's going to run into situations like that. Like there are a few guys, if you can snag one of those guys to where you had like, hey, you could talk to a coach. He's like, hey, he's been performing. We just didn't have space for him. Like we wish we could have kept him and we couldn't. It would be like us like letting go of one of these edges, Ukwu or I'm not going to say James Houston. People will kill me for that. Or a Gude or like one of these guys who have just been going off all camp. And you're in a different building and you're like, hey, we need an edge, just a depth edge. And you would probably be like, all right, I'm going to go look at a guy like that. So like, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think it would just be, if they did it, I think I would have more faith in that to be honest, because that means they saw something and whoever that they picked up, that means he actually performed in the offseason. Like he actually did something. He was productive this offseason other than the guys right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest team I go to when I think of potential cuts is the Texans because of how many wide receivers they have. I mean, you have Robert Woods, John Mechie III, who played at Alabama. He was a pretty good player. I think they'll keep him, but Noah Brown's there, but I think he stays. But yeah, Robert Woods is like probably the easiest one to name. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of other guys that are surprise cuts. Hey, the Houston Texans, they got
Jake Bobo. Jake Bobo. Bring Jake Bobo to Detroit. Bring him home. Bring him home. The Jake Bobo, the notorious Jake Bobo.
Because the Seahawks wide receiver room, they got.
I don't know if Jake Bobo will get cut though.
No, he won't. He won't. Honestly,
I don't think there's any chance.
Hey, they got Laviska Shenault, Jake Bobo.
Realistically, though, boys, Tyler Lockett won't be on that team for the full season. That's a name to watch at the trade deadline.
Who did I say 2 months ago? I said Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, you did.
Give me Tyler Lockett all day. Like,
and what do the Lions need? Like, just another outside guy.
Deep threat. Tyler Lockett is one of the best deep threats in the entire NFL. That dude will go get a 70-yarder. It's one of the more ridiculous things that I've ever seen for a guy like him in his career.
Doesn't get hurt either. Wouldn't cause any locker room issues.
I almost want to guarantee today. I almost want to just put a Booner Path stamp that there's going to be a new wide receiver in this room within the next 2 weeks. Like I almost want to do it. There's no way there's not.
Just do it. Yeah. I mean,
there's no way there's not.
That's not like a hot take. I like that.
Give us a couple names, Boone. Give us some substance behind the take.
So
you got to name us 3 players.
I want to do this. Can we pull up this tweet that I put in here?
Yeah,
do that for you,
Jeff. Can you pull it up?
Anything.
I put a tweet in there, and it was just shout out Nate. He had put up a tweet and it had a bunch of different options for wide receivers. I've heard a lot of different names. I need to start writing some down. Man. I might end up with a list. I might end up with a list of 40 guys, but there are a handful of guys, whether it's guys who are going to be on the trade block, guys who are going to be cut.
Boone, you can only pick 2 people out of this list. Two people. This is a Booner guarantee. You can't pick the whole damn list. You got to pick 2 people. All right.
First one.
This is easy.
We could say Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce for
Gotta
sure.
give him a like.
But if we're talking about just
live like
Treylon Burks, isn't like I love this list. I think this is a realistic list, to be honest. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like the Houston ones, one of those guys in that Houston room, Noah Brown, Robert Woods, John Mechie, one of those guys has to get cut, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you can keep all 6 or 7 of these guys in that room.
No.
So you're gonna have an option. And I tell you what, all 3 of those guys are better than DPJ.
Yeah. Underrated storyline that could be out of this if Cleveland moves off Cedric Tillman. Who is Cedric Tillman's quarterback in college? Hendon Hooker. So you look at that. That'd be chemistry there. He's kind of a guy that I thought had a lot of intangibles that dealt with injuries. Your guy, Matt Collins. But I honestly, and it'd be a Brad Holmes move of all, but Tim Patrick. Like Tim Patrick is a very consistent wide receiver. He just had back-to-back years of tearing his ACL. And he caught a touchdown in the preseason game. But he's exactly. He probably not what he was. But when he was healthy, he is exactly what Josh Reynolds was. Guy that could block and catch touchdowns.
I heard one earlier today. Shout out to Heavy. Shout out Spenny. He brought up Zach Pascal over. He's in Arizona.
I love Zach Pascal. He's gritty.
And I think he might be a potential from the sounds of it. I think he might be a potential cut candidate because they have Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, Chris Moore, and I think then there's Zach Pascal after
Michael
that.
Wilson too.
So there's a chance, but Zach Pascal has had a solid career. Let me see. I want to see what he did last year because last year I don't know what he did, but
he hasn't done much the last 2 seasons. But he's always been like a 600-yard guy. Like he's he's a capable.
Even when he was on the Colts, man, like with Matt Ryan, like he was just steady. Like especially
600 yards plus a year.
That's about right.
I just think there's going to be an opportunity to move on from DPJ, and it's like, hey, if he doesn't show anything within the next 6 days, let's move on. You don't have enough time to sit here and hope a kid works out. Not a kid, I apologize. A guy works out. Yeah. Like you don't have that time. You're a contending Super Bowl team. You need to have a roster ready to go now. And if he's just not ready, he's just not ready. It's the same thing with me in the edge room. Like people are, they're like, Booner, you're a hater. No, I'm passionate, and this is why the Booner Path is where the Booner Path is. That's why I went to the NFC Championship game. It's because I'm going to tell you how it is, and we're going to be honest with each other. This is a trust circle, trust tree.
I'm kind of intrigued with the Matt Collins experience.
Yeah. So Booner, you didn't even pick your 2 people. You got to give us your
Matt Collins fan.
You are Boone. Boone is steady with the Matt Collins support.
I don't know if I could pick just 2 people from this list because I'm a big Matt Collins fan. I loved Cedric Wilson at Tennessee. Alec Pierce is an absolute dog over in Indy. Treylon Burks over with Will Levis. I was the biggest Treylon Burks guy the year he got drafted. I was saying he was the next big thing. Darius Slayton, maybe not as much. And then all these Houston guys, I've been talking about them for a month. I'm just ready to maybe just get something new in this room. Like, give us something new, please. Dan, I hope you're listening.
So we're not getting those 2 people, are we, Boone?
I don't know. It's too tough.
But Boone, I think he said one Alec Pierce. I think the overwhelmingly obvious one here is Alec Pierce because he's a true X wide receiver. He's on a rookie contract and he was a 2nd-round pick. And it's not like he's been bad in his career. He just really hasn't had a consistent quarterback play to develop. And he was a guy that, especially in his route tree, needed to develop. He's going to block. He's going to make big plays in the stretch of the field. And then outside of Alec Pierce, if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Robert Woods just because right away he can connect with Jared Goff. Outside of that, like the 3 and 4 to me would be Cedric Tillman and probably Tim Patrick. I wouldn't hate what do you say, Matt Collins either or Treylon Burks. I really like Booner said. I would like all these guys in here. The only one that'd kind of be like is John Mechie just because he'd be in the slot.
The only thing I don't like about Tim Patrick is just he's just been hurt.
Yeah.
The last
He's dirt
Another
cheap,
injured
though,
player.
Yeah, that's the
Especially
only.
for, like, he already brought up Khalif not playing all the time. If we're expecting this guy that we're going to sign or bring on to play all the time, I don't think Tim Patrick's the angle you want to take, even though he is a decent player. But.
I'll tell you what, I want nothing to do with Treylon Burks. I mean, I just I'm not.
You just don't like Treylon Burks because you don't want to like Treylon Burks.
I think you guys have just talked him up so much. I just don't like him. I think
we said he's a wide receiver 3.
You guys just, you know what? You guys are dying. You guys
they have been gassing it up. They have been gassing it up.
Treylon Burks, go watch Treylon Burks play.
Boone, me and you can align here. Boone, me and you can align here.
Hey, Klotz, just wait until Treylon ends up.
Mike hears it all.
At one point of his career, turns things around, and the people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh!" And then we won't even. I don't take victory laps. I don't do it.
That's not true. That's not true.
All right.
We're agreeing here, but that's where we're going to disagree.
I was testing the boys. You guys passed. I will say this real quick, Jeff. Hold up real quick. I just want to say this. I'm coming around a little bit. I'm just coming around a little bit to where I'm starting to feel like, hey, wide receiver 4 just might not matter as much. Like, I'm just like, hey, you've got this. I'm coming around a little bit on it. I'm just, you think about it, dude. We have so many weapons on this team. And as I start thinking about it, like when we did that receiving thing a couple days ago, when we did our receiving projections, I was just like, we have absolute dogs on this team. All-pro talent is here, like sprinkled all over this offense. You have an all-pro running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, Pro Bowl running back in David Montgomery. You have an all-pro wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have an all-pro tight end in Sam Laporta. You have a Pro Bowl quarterback. You have 2 all-pro offensive linemen, multiple Pro Bowl offensive linemen. It's just like J-Mo's going to be a Pro Bowler at some point. Like it's just Khalif is an all-pro returner. This offense. I'm giving you credit. Are you going to be sad about the credit, or are you going to be happy about it?
Booner, I'm happy that you manned up and you're like, you know what? Because it's true. But to your point, and Spenny said this on Heavyweights the other day, offensively, at least with the starting lineup, that's the only is there a Pro Bowler there? Is there an All-Pro there? No, because it's the only it's your wide receiver 3-4. You know what I mean? And that's the only weakness that's really on this roster right now offensively.
It's just the depth. That's it.
But yeah.
Yeah, like if someone goes, if you lose a guy for a couple of weeks, like you're able to offset it with the Sam Laportas. You're able to do things with it. It would just be nice. I think it's the luxury. I know it's crazy as Lions fans. We're sitting here talking about luxury, sitting in my nice luxury chair.
Lions, baby.
Lions, baby. We're just sitting there. And we're just like the luxury of it. The luxury. That's all. It's just like the luxury of knowing you have a wide receiver 4. Like some teams do. Shout out JT Olsen. The Bucks. They have a good wide receiver room. We would just want a full from top to bottom. That's all. No big deal. We're a little spoiled. Like our running backs room might be the best in the entire NFL. We would like that with our wide receiver room. You know?
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm not gonna choose violence. I'm just gonna say, because I feel like saying, yeah, we've been yelling at you with the same point and we argue about it. But you know what? I'm glad, Booner, because I do this too. I've said, hey, you know what, boys? I think this take da. So you know what? You're right. That's what kind of how we feel. Like your wide receiver 4, Boone. Like realistically, how many yards is he getting? Like how many yards does this guy get?
Yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. You're probably 300-400 yards if that. Like nothing crazy. That's why I came around a little bit, and I know like those 300 or 400 yards. Though, like last year, Khalif Raymond was your wide receiver 4, essentially. Him and J-Mo, whoever we want to go. Khalif had 500 yards, and J-Mo had 350. So it's like you're going to need 300 to 400 yards probably from your wide receiver 4, and those yards most likely come off like some chunk plays. Or plays if a guy's injured or a guy needs a week off.
But you also see the point we remember when we talked about it. Like you're right, J-Mo had what'd you say? 350? That's what you said? 350?
Something like that.
That's with everyone having the exact same year.
I get that, but you do want to make sure you're because like to your point, if guys go up, there are guys who might go down a little. So
and that would be to me the wide receiver 4. That would probably be the down.
Yeah, but then you need to make it up somewhere else. But what happens? It just you have to like look at it like just without moving anything. 1,500 for your one with Saint. You know, who was 2? JMO 800. The next
Sam
one,
Laporta is going to
500.
get over 1,000.
You know what I mean? But I'm just talking about wide receiver room, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's like lay out the exact amount that each
Isaiah
one
Williams
needs.
can get a sneaky 200 to 300, Boone.
And maybe he ends up being the fourth and he gets that. But you just need to lay out like bang, bang, bang. This is what you expect out of your guys. So I don't get enough credit, I don't think, sometimes. I admit when I'm wrong. People think that I just bark all the time and I'm always like, I'm right. And I argue. People think I just argue until my face falls off. I see the comments. I listen.
Boone, there might be times of that, and there might be more occasions. But let's remember this time that Booner put himself on the stand. We didn't put Booner on the stand here. Booner put himself on the stand.
I constantly come forward and say, "Hey, I was wrong." I know when I'm wrong. I will admit it.
Yeah, I mean, even to Steve's point, like Steve says, Jeff Risden made a great point that you have to factor in all the running back or the catches the running backs and backup tight ends will get. I'm not as with Brock Wright, like I get that point, but I'm with really Jameer. Like we expect Jameer to be a more uptick in receiving production. Like that's, Goff's not going to pass for 6,000, so obviously, like he's going to be in the same probably range. I would think that's my prediction of last year, kind of passing yards. So, yeah, I think Jameer will help out, and it'll be interesting, man. I mean, also this week, fellas, another big storyline. Hendon Hooker, speaking of guys on the stand, Hendon Hooker's on the stand on Saturday. He's on the stand. He's starting in a football game. So, all eyes.
Potentially.
Why is he on the stand?
On what stand?
I'm confused. He's trying to make his narrative. He's trying to put his narrative out there. I see what's happening.
He's trying to find. He's going to go pull up a cryptic tweet and say it's a Hendon Hooker hate speech, and he's Hendon Hooker still has something to prove. There's no stand for Hendon Hooker to be standing on. He proved himself, Jeff.
Well,
I agree.
In terms, fair. In terms of starting a football game. Right off the rip, maybe the Steelers play a little starters. Maybe I don't know. I don't check Steelers news. It's going to be a big time. It's different, I guess. This is just my take on it. I think it's a little different starting a football game than it is coming in the second half. Because when you start, the jitters are there. It's 0-0. You get the ball first or second, but you're getting the ball your first drive of the game. Like it's a little different. So more nerves. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Hendon Hooker will be out there. Hopefully we don't see a snap of Nate Sudfeld. Sorry, I just keep piling on. Maybe you get some Jake Fromm. I mean, just throw it. Give someone else. I don't care who it is. If you're going to take away from Hendon, if Hendon ain't going to play the whole game, I think he should play a half, to be honest. If he plays a half, give it to someone else. I mean, I don't need to see any more of Sudfeld. But regardless. Hey, what? I'm just saying.
The jitters had to be there anyways because it was his first game. So starting in the second half, the first half, it doesn't matter. It's his first time seeing the field in an NFL game. So the jitters were still there no matter what. But I get what you're saying. It's his first start, and who knows, maybe we'll play a decent amount of the game. So there is still some pressure on that.
And he's at home
to a certain extent.
Ford Field. I think he's at Ford. Is that the only home game they've had this preseason? Yeah.
Correcto mundo.
Yeah,
in front of the fans.
Good job.
Boone gave you the golf clap.
I don't know why he's upset. Like all I said was, I hope Sudfeld doesn't play. I really don't know why.
You went on the stand about Hendon Hooker going on the stand. Jeff went on the stand to defend.
And then he says he brought up slander about Nate Sudfeld, and I don't know if Boone liked that.
Why'd you freak out then now? What happened?
It's not that I don't like that. And like this is where, and I talked to you guys about this today. Nate Sudfeld is so bad at football. Like I hate watching this guy. I just like as a friend and as colleagues and I don't know what we want to call it, like when we're doing
business partners, some would say
business partners, friends, like brothers. I just want to I hate when I see my friends get set up to fail. Like not fail, but like get disappointed.
It's not a prediction, Boone.
I know it's not a prediction. I just hate when my friends get set up to be disappointed. Like when we do the stream on Saturday, I'm gonna have to show up and Hendon Hooker's gonna start, and we're all gonna be like, "Let's go!" And then I'm gonna have to sit there for a half of just complaining about Nate Sudfeld, and I don't want to do. I don't like. He's gonna play. Like, why don't we just be like, "All right, Nate Sudfeld's gonna play. Let's just watch the guys around him." Like, dude, how about we just watch the offensive
they
line?
can't do their job, Boone. We all.
I know, but like, dude, I'm just so tired of just the Nate Sudfeld.
I know.
Like,
I know.
Cut this guy, get this guy out of my life. Like, it is at a point to where
bingo.
Yes, like you guys have broken me.
That's what we need to hear. That's what we need to hear.
Like, it's unrealistic. Like, me being serious, like with the Booner path, it's like I tell the people all the time, I am the one on the front line that will be realistic with you. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not, but I'm going to tell you how it is. And how it is Nate Sudfeld's going to be on the roster for the next 8 months. So it's like either we just like not complain about it every single second of our lives, or we just move on. Like, or
we can complain about it for one more week. Then we will.
But he's going to be on the roster for 8 months.
Gentry.
But we're not going to be able to watch him.
Yeah, but like, he'll be an afterthought. He's holding the clipboard. You won't even see him in the background on TV. So just give it a week. We will still complain for the second half or whatever he does end up playing on Sunday. It is what it is. You have to deal with it, Booner. You have to deal with it.
It's already bad enough. I have to watch it, and then I have to see the complaints.
If he's on TV, people are going to be complaining
too. You can.
Yeah, I don't understand like Booner's PR perspective. Like, I don't want to see Sudfeld.
I'm a Dan Campbell fan. I listen to Dan, and I abide by Dan's rule. Can we put a Dan video?
Yes, but my opinion is I don't want to see him.
Me either.
Okay, then why the like what
it has nothing to do with the opinion. It's just like the fact that I just hate my boys, my brothers have to suffer.
No,
it's like,
Booner, I know
Dan's going to keep this guy on the roster.
With us, then, Booner.
At some point,
Booner.
This is the thing. At some point, we have to be like, all right, boys. This is
we don't. Fuck that.
This is gonna happen.
I'm going to tell you what I think, and I hate Sudfeld.
No, tell me what you think, but again, at some point, we just have to face the facts of.
And the fact is, he stinks. He does.
He does.
And that is the fact, and that is the only fact. If he's on the
roster,
I
said he's good?
No, I didn't. I'm just saying he stinks. And if he's on the roster, awesome. My opinion, I don't want him on the roster. I don't want him playing this Saturday. I don't want to see him at all. Now, PR Jeff, he will be on the roster. Dan Campbell will keep Nate Sudfeld.
Thank you.
Opinion Jeff, I don't want to see Nate Sudfeld. He
forgot to go up. He went down twice.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
rookie move. What is this, Booner? Amateur hour?
I mean, this guy needs to get better at this
because
job.
Dan will give you the inside scoop on why they view Sudfeld, why they like him as QB3. Let's just.
Jeff's mad. We made him mad.
Let's just hear. No. No one's gonna tell me to stop my Nate Sudfeld hate. Guy stinks.
I will tell you.
No one's gonna tell me.
No, fuck that. He stinks. Now let's hear from Dan Campbell why he doesn't stink. Let's hear from him. All right, because Dan Campbell just loves him.
Ultimately, you need to know. You have to have conviction that whoever that guy is going to be able to keep the ship afloat. And what we know about Hooker is a young developing quarterback, and he needs reps and he needs time. I do know that. All right. And Nate right now has the upper hand because he's played more. He's been in it more. He's seen it more. He just, and so with that would tell you there's a good chance you could keep 3, you know? Am I going to say that 100% certain right now? No, but that's kind of what you look at. And ultimately, you need to know.
You didn't even seem confident saying that.
He's rubbing his shoulders. He didn't even finish his thought. He was just like, yeah. Well, I mean, we could keep 3 of them on the team. Like he didn't talk about his skill set whatsoever. He was just like, he's been out there in some games now. He's
got more reps. That's all. Said he's been out there, has got more reps. He didn't talk about how bad those reps were. He got more though. He got more reps.
You know what's wild? You know what I just thought about? I thought about this because I was watching the day. Hendon Hooker didn't really practice last week and walked out there on Saturday and looked better.
What is not saying?
Think about it. He didn't even really practice. He just threw the ball around. I mean, me and Booner were there. He was just tossing it around.
Jeff is so happy.
Nate Sudfeld was taking reps, like with the 2s. Continue. Sorry, I just want to add that.
Who to continue? You're the only one going.
making faces over there.
I just know guys. I'm the Hendon Hooker guy.
I'm confused why you keep making these faces when I'm talking about Nate.
I just don't understand. I'm really not making them at you. I'm just reading the chat. I'm just like people are like Alex Merrill. I'm convinced Booner jacked it to a shirtless pictures of them. Like what? Because I listen to what the man says because he's the head coach of the team and he never. Dan Campbell has. I'm going to ask you guys this. Can I ask you guys this?
Yes, of course.
Does Dan Campbell lie to the media? Has he ever lied to the media?
No, I think sometimes
Dan Campbell always truthful.
No, he doesn't lie. He may sugarcoat some stuff that,
Dan Campbell.
Just a little bit. Come on. You're trying to say
been the most honest head coach. Jeff, and you know this.
He doesn't lie, but he'll gloss over it a little bit to kind of hide how the person's actually doing. He doesn't want full lights on the person.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm not saying he lies.
This room, us four here, we have had this conversation about Dan Campbell multiple times. Let me take you guys back in time real quick to a guy named DPJ. When you guys tried to convince me that Dan Campbell sometimes sugarcoats it or sometimes he leaves no, I told you guys straight up. Dan Campbell doesn't lie. And when he gets asked about DPJ and says something not great and other players he's honest about, Dan Campbell does not know how to lie. He might know a little bit of media, but this guy does not know how to lie. Like, he is completely brutally honest. Maybe that's a fault to some points, but Dan Campbell tells it how it is. And we've ran into this as a show multiple times, boys. And I've told you guys this, and you guys laughed at me, DPJ. And then it comes back a month later where it's, maybe Booner was right. Maybe there was something to look into because Dan doesn't lie. So I don't take my shirt off to Dan Campbell every day. I listen to what he says. I listen to what he says because he is typically an honest person.
Sorry,
you guys got to going now.
No, I will say Dan Campbell more honest than like your typical head coach. But Booner, you have to at least we have to agree here. Every coach, there's a term called coach speak. Dan isn't just like going to the podium and just not saying he doesn't like lie, but it's coach speak. Like, you're going to say things because you're a head coach. Like, to act like Dan is just coming out just like Sudfeld sucked today. Isaiah Williams was really good. Jared Goff threw 2 picks. Guy's a bozo. Like, they have to cover it up with like, hey, this. Like, he's honest. But
when Dan Campbell comes out and he goes, Hendon Hooker had a lot of really, really, really good plays, but he also had a lot of really, really, really bad plays. Yeah, he's really sugarcoating it, isn't he? No, he was just like, hey, he had a lot of really, really bad plays as well.
There are times where he will, like, Sudfeld's absolutely stunk the first preseason game. What did he say after the game?
He was bad. He needs there's a lot to work on. He needs to work on his progression.
He did not go to the podium and say Sudfeld
Yes, he did.
Bad.
He said, what we saw in the game today wasn't what we saw during training camp. He literally
that's coach speak.
That's him being like he was bad today.
Just if Dan go to the podium, then say, hey, this guy sucks.
You know what I hate about this too?
Say that right.
This makes it sound like I'm sticking up for Nate Sudfeld. This guy Nate Sudfeld could get cut for all I care. I hope he gets cut tonight. Like, I don't care.
He just wants the Sudfeld saga out of his life, Boone. It's okay, Jake Fromm. That's why Jake Fromm's here. Remember, Boone.
Jake Fromm hasn't taken a snap in 11-on-11 with this team. I read today.
And he's still better. He's still
crazy.
Better. It's still taking.
Yeah, I
don't even know what
Booner, to your point,
I will at this point.
Well, it was because Dan is more straight up. Like, Dan, I think Dan and probably Antonio Pierce has started to be a little bit like it. I think those two are probably the most just like straight up, because most coaches are just like, yeah, they don't want to do anything. Like, Bill Belichick was the epitome of it. Like, he wouldn't even talk to the media. So Dan, I think, is a little bit more open with it, but he does have to hide some things. Like, no coach is going to go. And you agree with that. I would say that Dan is probably one of like the top 3 most open head coaches when he's on the microphone.
That's why I take so much account into what he says. And I don't think that me doing that, like today when he does, like, we can't pick and choose. Like, when he says something like that fits our narrative, like, hey, like today, or something that doesn't, like today when he's like, hey, Hendon Hooker's still developing and he still has a long ways to go. Not a long ways to go, but he still has time to go and he still needs a lot of reps. I take into account into that. Whether we saw something really good in preseason or we didn't. Like, I'm still going to take account. Like, Dan Campbell is 90% of the time very, very honest with us, and he's the one that's literally there every day. So when he says something and he's as honest as he is with us, I take account into it, to where it's like, yeah, yesterday we were talking about how, hey, Hendon's good for QB too. Maybe they don't feel that in that room. And honestly, I just thought of this. This is my brain working in real time. Maybe him saying there's going to be 3 QBs in this room doesn't mean it's with Nate Sudfeld. Maybe they're going to go get someone over to stall until Hendon Hooker gets all of those reps in. Like, that could be a possibility too. For me, taking into account to what he said about Hendon Hooker, that he needs a lot more reps still.
And that's another thing we all agree on, is even though they like Dan Campbell or Nate Sudfeld, he should not be the QB3. Like, that's why we agree there. Get someone else to back up. If you want 3 quarterbacks, just by the off chance there's an injury and then another injury, you never know. I do not ever on God's green earth want to see Sudfeld go out there. I don't give a shit when it is, where it is. I don't want to see it. So even though it's the 3rd quarterback, it's like, oh, he's a 3rd. No, I don't. Even if Jared goes down, then Hendon goes down. The last thing I want to see is Nathaniel Sudfeld walking to the field. I will personally.
There's nothing wrong with Nathaniel's.
Turn around,
go get Isaiah Williams, and he can play quarterback. I do not want to see Nathaniel Sudfeld. So that's where we're at. We agree. Go get another QB3. There's plenty out there that are probably better at this point. Guys that barely play. That's just my opinion.
Clayton Tune home. Bring him home. Bring Clayton Tune home.
You're going to get me going again.
Clayton Tune. Well, that's another. Well, hey, speaking of, you mentioned Clayton Tune. I don't know.
I want to see where this segue goes.
Hey.
Yeah, how do you segue Clayton Tune?
Hey, I'm reaching deep in the bag. Hold on. You mentioned Clayton Tune.
All right, let him
go. The Arizona Cardinals, which the Lions play early in the season.
Oh, how about that?
Could potentially be a trap game, depending on your definition. I want to ask you guys your trap game this year for the Lions. Out of their entire schedule, what's a game, a team where the Lions maybe, I don't think they're not going to overlook anyone. That's not Dan. That's not really their culture. But a team that you think, hey, on paper, you just should beat them. Maybe they'll give them a run for their money. What do you guys think this season?
And I'll read some
comments too.
Some confusion before we talk about it. What are we going to define as a trap game?
Wait. Yeah,
I have my definition.
I want you to know. No, I want you to define it, because before you came into our studio, I was going back and forth with Jeff. We were yelling at each other a little bit about what the definition of a trap game was. I already have mine locked in.
A trap game, a perfect example of a trap game last year was Dallas going into Arizona and Arizona running for 220 yards and beating them like 42-14 because no one saw that coming. That's like a trap game where you're like Carolina against the Lions, when the Lions were on that hot streak and when they went, 8-9, 9-8, whatever. And they went to Carolina. Everybody's like, the Detroit Lions are hot. There's no way they lose this game. And then boom. They run for 220 plus yards. That's what, when I think of a trap game, that's what I think of.
I agree.
Can I go first so I can get mine out of the way here?
Yeah.
So I don't want to be involved in any slander or anything wrong. I'm going to do this. This one's pretty simple to me. I think this is one of the more straightforward ones when it comes to the Detroit Lions schedule. It's a team that could potentially be really good this year. In the past, they've won a decent amount of games. They have a good roster. But it's one of those games to where the Lions probably are going to be a bigger favorite on the road, but it's just a good football team. Week 12, Indianapolis Colts. I think that's the perfect trap game. I think you're going to sit there and this is going to be a tough game. You're sitting in week 12. I think the Detroit Lions will be 8-2. I think they're going to be sitting at 8-2. They're going to be feeling really good at the top of the NFC. And this might be one of those games where you go in and you just get popped in the face real quick. Pop, pop. And you're like, in the first half, you're like, whoa, what just happened? Jonathan Taylor just ran for all these yards. Anthony Richardson, we can't contain him. All right, we need to figure this out, fellas. Like, I think that's like probably if you went from the whole roster. I'm not giving it to Arizona. I would never give a trap game to a divisional game. I would never do a divisional game for a trap game because divisional games are divisional games.
Would it make any sense? Would it make any sense?
Zero. A divisional game? Who would do?
Yeah,
why would you do a divisional game? Makes zero sense. So the divisional game's always up in the air. You never know with the divisional game. So you can never make a trap game a divisional game. You can lose any divisional game.
Okay. Are you done here? Or are you just going to
But I think the Colts is a perfect trap game.
I'm not going to, just to get this out of the way, I can't even believe Booner just said, let me take this first. Like, Booner, you knew I would say the Colts. Like, you knew I would say the Colts.
I had no clue.
I know the chance for me to lead on my narrative about the Indianapolis Colts because it's true.
I didn't know you were going to say the Colts, but when I started saying and I started breaking it down, I saw you smile and I go, oh, in the back of my head, I go, Klotzy for sure knows who I'm about to talk about here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Klotzy.
Yeah, but he's absolutely right. If there's a team that's going to give the Lions issue, it's a team that's the Lions. When you talk about a team like, I'm not even doing this to throw a shot out there, but I think we all agree that the Lions are probably going to beat the shit out of the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're a soft team. They're not that physical. I think when you have teams like that, the less physical teams, the Lions are going to have their way with them, especially on the ground. The Colts, offensive line, defensive line, very sturdy. They got a lot of weapons out there. Not a lockdown secondary, but they have guys that can hold their own out there. And when you look at the Lions, their weakness right now offensively, wide receiver depth. So if they're able to bracket Amon-Ra, get somebody over J-Mo, Sam Laporte is still probably going to eat them up, but they can do some things on the defense side of the ball to kind of limit the Lions. And offensively, they have the offensive line, the running game. I think I talk about all the time. The RPO game with Anthony Richardson is going to be something that the Colts just beat like a dead horse. That's going to be the bread and butter. And I think that's the way you keep Jared Goff off the field. So to me, Booner, you're spot on. It's the Colts.
Klotz, okay. I originally had two games. It was going to be the Colts or the Bills, but they told me before the Bills cannot be a trap game. So
I did not.
I apologize.
All right.
Well, it was really just Jeff. It was just Jeff.
I didn't say
Uncle was in the middle of it.
I just said based on Booner's expectations for the Bills, why would that be a trap game? Like, I don't think the Bills will be good, so maybe I can make that argument. Like they're a sneaky team, but if they're anyway, we're not going to dive down that hole. Mike, what do you got?
All right, so I have two, and I'm pretty sure we already talked about this. I still have the Seahawks week 3. I still think the Lions will start off 2-0, and then they come back home. They face the Seahawks. They've obviously had some trouble with them in the past. The Seahawks have a good offense, and then they're facing them early on in the year again where their defense is healthy. So if this game went wire to wire and the Lions ended up dropping it, I really wouldn't be surprised. The other one is Lucas. I have the Jaguars because I think they're going to be playing the Texans that Sunday beforehand. I think that's going to be a banger of a game. I think it's going to be very high scoring, and I think they will go head to head with the Texans. I think they end up winning that game, and then I think maybe the next week they kind of almost play down to their opponent in Jacksonville, and they have a good game there. So I would say Seahawks and Jaguars.
I thought those were fine.
They're gonna absolutely steamroll the Jaguars. Confidence held high. Then they're gonna steamroll the Jags at home. The Lions. When's the last time the Lions outside of Green Bay at Thanksgiving lost at home? Very rare. Very rare. They're not losing at Ford Field this year.
I saw them play with the Jags at home, beat them by 40.
Yeah, and I would say Jags are probably in a very similar situation than they were in that.
But that's idea that by definition, to Mike's point, like, okay, we expect them to win by 40. Go win by 40. You know?
Yeah.
Go win.
No. Trap games like you're losing.
So now you have to be
every year. The Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year. The Super Bowl champions lost a lot.
But you wouldn't say that before the season. You'd say they're going to steamroll the Raiders. That's not like. Yeah,
that's fair. Fair. All I'm saying is they ain't losing to the Jags. Fair point.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying, but it ain't happening.
There was a little turnaround there.
I know you guys. It doesn't fit Lucas and Boone's narrative, but. What about Chicago on Thanksgiving? Obviously, there's like a 4-day turnaround. They played in Detroit. You don't think that's somewhat of a trap game? The Bears with their revamped defense, the number 1 pick, all these weapons on offense. Just because it's a divisional game, it's not a trap game.
Trap game? Wrong. No way, because the Lions have been shitting themselves on Thanksgiving since I could remember. The last time I remember being happy on Thanksgiving is when Megatron had like 3 touchdowns on Eric Rowe and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's the last true Thanksgiving I remember being able to actually enjoy the whole day. So the Lions on Thanksgiving, doesn't matter who they play, I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah,
especially like the Bears, they almost beat like the Lions. Like, were struggling at home. They came back with 13 seconds left last year at home with Justin Fields.
I don't hate the Bears. If you're talking about on the road, like the only thing I would say is like they lost to the Bears last year on the road. So I mean, I get that too. So it's okay.
Who's yours? Who's yours, Jeff?
Oh yeah, actually, Jeff, you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Titans. I think the Titans could be a trap game. I mean, you're on the road to Minnesota beforehand, and then you have after the Titans, you have on the road to Green Bay, on the road to Houston. So they're kind of that, like, they're at the point of the season where you're not, they will, but it's easy to overlook the Titans given you have two very tough road games after the Titans. And I think the Titans this offseason, like, I love their head coach. Will Levis, we're going to figure out if he can be a franchise quarterback, and they got weapons that will test the secondary. The Jarius Sneed, they just signed. So Traylon Burks will have 0 catches. But I think that's a team that could potentially sneak up on the Lions. And again, I'm not saying they will, but a trap game like that could be you're overlooking.
Fits my Titans narrative there. I love that. Will Levis.
I can see them. You could easily overlook the Titans.
Right
now,
they should more than the Jags.
No doubt, they should beat them.
Yeah, the Titans are way worse, or like not way worse, but I would say that the Jags are better. So I like the Titans one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I agree. That would probably be my second option there.
Yeah,
honestly, the second one. If we're talking about like a legit trap game, like where you're like worst team you probably play in the season, that you're sitting there, you're like, you can't lose to this team, and if you do, like think about, you play to start the season, you play a playoff rematch versus Matthew Stafford in the Los Angeles Rams in Ford Field. Then you turn around another playoff rematch with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Say you're 2-0. Then you go on the road. Maybe you get a little too comfortable going after 2-0. Super Bowl contending expectations. You're probably power ranked #1 in the NFL potentially at that point. You're sitting there, everything's flying high, and then you go into Arizona with Marvin Harrison. You're going there with Kyler Murray, essentially like a whole new football team. And like just like last year with the Dallas Cowboys, you go into an environment in Arizona where typically those fans, I feel like, show out a little bit in Arizona. Like they love football. So like I'm not saying they lose that game. Like I expect them to win that game, and I think they start 3-0 and potentially even more than that. I'm just like, if you're looking at it, probably the biggest trap game on the year is after 2 playoff matchups in Ford Field. The whole city is on your back, and you go in and you drop a game in Arizona. Like that would be like, yep, that was a trap game. Like you look back and
that was the one I was deciding between, because you nailed it. 2 physical games, and then you go on the road to Arizona. Like
emotional games too. Like those are playoff rematches versus Stafford and the Bucks. Like those are big time games.
I don't hate it.
This is true. Goff's record is 8-1 against the Cardinals.
Which there it is. That even maybe gives it even more of a trap game to where he's always beats them, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't know Goff's record in Arizona. Like I didn't know he was like the governor. Like the dude just owns that
governor. The governor of Arizona.
Yeah, dude's the governor. I didn't know that.
We gotta make that into a shirt too. The governor.
Governor Goff.
Yeah, Governor Goff, Arizona colors. But hey, I'll ask this now that we're on NFL.
Ask us.
We've been talking about who's under the most pressure, Detroit Lions players. We always talk about, we talk about players and who's under pressure. We never really talk about national, like who are some players nationally across the NFL that you're looking at this season? Like this player is under the most pressure to succeed this season. Who is that to you guys?
I'm not going first this time.
Okay,
I'll go last.
I'm not going to say the most pressure, but he's under some pressure, and I would say Jordan Love, because he got paid like a top 5 quarterback, and now you got to go out there and win some games. Obviously, the way you ended in the playoffs isn't what you had hoped, but you still got paid anyways. So you're expected to be one of the top teams in the NFC. Who knows? Maybe even make a run at the NFC North the way their fans think. So you got to go out there and make some noise if you're Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad one. I really didn't think about it. That's because I have confidence that he'll perform. And a guy that I think, and I heard Dan Orlovsky talk about it too on ESPN, but Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is If you look at that Browns roster, just look how that's constructed. Joe Flacco came off the couch and took them to a playoff game. Deshaun Watson has the only fully guaranteed contract as a quarterback in NFL history, and it's a shit ton. If he doesn't perform and get this team far into the playoffs, it's a disappointment, and this franchise absolutely fumbled with that trade because there's probably not going to be a team that's going to take that contract on because it is fully guaranteed. And the roster they have right now, you'd almost have to look after the season at drafting another quarterback because at the roster they have, it's young, but a lot of the guys, like even like Myles Garrett, he's not going to be able to be here for after Deshaun Watson and a rookie quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You got to get a quarterback probably next season. If Deshaun Watson doesn't perform in one of the most difficult divisions, if not the most difficult division in the NFL, I think he's just cooked in Cleveland. They just have to find a way to get another quarterback in there. And I don't know if you can.
They're both the good ones. I think these are both really good ones.
Do you want to go next, Jeff? I have two that I want.
Well, I'll go first then, because I only have one. And it's a quarterback. I think it's Brock Purdy, in my opinion. Now, I'll say this: first full season starting, Super Bowl appearance. He's in a contract year, and he's playing for a contract. And for a guy like Brock, you have one season as a sample size. You have the 49ers, who among many lists are ranked as the number 2 team in the NFL. There's pressure to perform. He is, and he will probably continue to be, the one player you point on the 49ers and say, can that guy show up on a week-to-week basis? Because if he can't, we're going to lose games. And last year he did play really well, but we have a year sample size. So with his contract in line, the 1 year he had where they made a Super Bowl, I think Brock's a capable quarterback. I think you could put him in the top 10 to 12 in the league, wherever. But there is a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy to kind of cement himself this year as a franchise quarterback for the 49ers, someone that they're going to keep long-term and extend and pay big money to. So Brock Purdy was a guy that immediately came to mind this year for me.
Love that. I honestly, all of the ones that you guys have, I think are great. I've got two, though, that I think potentially could be at the top of the list. The first one, in my mind, this is a massive market in the AFC over in New York City. The biggest market in football, the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers, let's be completely honest. This guy is, how old is he? Like 40 something now. He's just coming off an Achilles tear where he was supposed to go in there last year and take this Jets team to the playoffs, runs out with the American flag, and the next couple plays, he tears his Achilles or snaps, and you're sitting there, you're like, oh no, the Jets fans. Like, think about what Jets fans have been through for the last 20 years. I know Lions fans, we've been through a lot. Jets fans as well. They've got to the AFC Championship game and never get back. Like, they got Aaron Rodgers last year and he gets hurt. So, like, their expectations in New York right now with Robert Saleh, with, you have Breece Hall there now, Garrett Wilson, you brought in Mike Williams. That defense is one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. Like, everything right now is set up for Aaron Rodgers to go in there and contend and go do something. That, I know it's Aaron Rodgers. He's won multiple MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. So maybe you can argue, the pressure. You're in the biggest city in the world, like in the country, like the biggest market in the NFL. You have one of the biggest fan bases in the NFL that are just going to be going at you all year long. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers has a lot of pressure on him. And I think it's their team as a whole to go out there and perform, because they're a team that it seems like, hey, it's this year. You have to go out there and make a Super Bowl run, or you might not have this chance again because Aaron Rodgers is that old. Like, he could be done after this year. He almost retired this last year to go become vice president. Like, this guy is like, you never know with him. So they're like, every year for him, it's Super Bowl or bust. So I think there's a lot of pressure. Other guy, and I don't think this was like, I've been on before the show, we were talking about a couple names, and I didn't actually bring this guy up, but I was thinking about it a little more because a couple days ago, I had brought up that this team is kind of all in on a Super Bowl within this year. And that's the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. And especially the pressure, not just to go win a Super Bowl, but the pressure of, you have Michael Penix sitting behind you now. They wasted a top 10. Maybe I won't say wasted anymore. I'll start changing that. But they used the top 10 pick instead of getting you someone to go get help, whether it was on offense or the defensive side of the ball or an offensive lineman. They went out there and they got your backup sitting right behind you after you just signed a massive deal. Like, I've heard multiple people say it now, and I'm going to keep on going with it. This year, like, the Falcons have gone all in on their roster. Like, getting Judon, and they're not re-signing Judon as of now. Like, and bringing in Justin Simmons, those two moves show that they are all in this season to go for a Super Bowl. And Kirk Cousins, it is all on him. Like, everything's on him. And if he doesn't produce and they go to the playoffs, win that division, and lose in round one, people are going to be looking at Kirk Cousins, because he did the same thing in Minnesota. He couldn't win. He couldn't win there, and then he goes to Atlanta. They go all in on a year, and then he does the same thing there. So I think Kirk Cousins. Honestly, I would argue Kirk Cousins might be number one on that list, on the most pressure list. Like honestly, like I don't know how I didn't think about it, and then all of a sudden before the show, I'm like, I think that's the clear number one of this list of most pressure out of anyone in the NFL. Like Kirk, they literally drafted a top 10 quarterback, and they gave him like that's crazy. Like that's. Your whole career is just sitting behind you and a guy just staring down your neck like, hey, if you don't win a Super Bowl this year, I'm taking your job and I'm going to go do it.
I like it. I mean, I see the chat chiming in with some names, so we'll bring up some of theirs. I mean, Silence says I got Kyler Murray. If he doesn't perform, he's gone. Tyler says Bryce Young to me as a truckload.
Lucas.
Clayton too. Yeah,
Clayton
Clayton too.
NFL doesn't want that.
Hey, Tyler says Bryce Young has a truckload of pressure. Guys, I might even add, I think the Panthers got more pressure too to build around the dude. But yeah, he does have pressure, definitely. You draft him number one. He's in his second year. I think he's definitely got pressure. Streams Only says Hurts too. Yeah. I know that's
honestly though with Hurts, like it's the same thing to me with Hurts is like a Josh Allen. Like I feel like, and I guess you could make the same argument with Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. But I just feel like Sean McDermott has more pressure than Josh Allen. And I feel like,
Sirianni.
Robert Saleh. Sirianni, but I was thinking Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh has more pressure than Aaron Rodgers. Sirianni has more pressures than Jalen Hurts. Like I feel like that there's a little bit of that. Like those guys, if it doesn't work out, the head coach is gonna lose his job. Like Jalen Hurts will still be there. Like a guy in Kirk Cousins will lose his job, not the head coach.
Let me see. I got some more here. Scratch Golf. Shout out to him, by the way. This is Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, I will admit, does have some pressure on him. ETN, aka Ball Don't Lie. Russell Wilson as well. Dude's career as a starter is over if he doesn't perform. It's a good one. I think both quarterbacks in Pittsburgh probably got pressure.
They just need to play average though. They don't have to go out there and become like Justin Fields doesn't have to just improve to his ceiling in year one or else it's a bust. Like if Justin Fields honestly plays how he did against the Bears and increases his accuracy by 5%, then they're probably going to be making the playoffs.
Colazzi, me and you are lockstep with that. I think if Russell Wilson just did what he did last year in Denver, they're going to make the playoffs. Like just go out there and just be solid.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm still rooting for Justin Fields in that QB battle there. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know.
Yeah, man.
I'm a Russ fan. I'm a Russ fan.
I respect what Russ has done in the NFL, but you've seen the best of Russell Wilson. I think even the glimpses that you've seen with Justin Fields, I honestly think that Justin Fields being good in the NFL is a lot better for the NFL, especially in a market like Pittsburgh. Like if Justin Fields becomes a really good quarterback, I doubt Deshaun Watson's going to return to any type of form he did in Houston, but I think he has a skill set to be a good quarterback in the NFL still. So you talk about Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields would be the worst quarterbacks in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I think that would be great for the NFL. Because Pittsburgh too, when the Pittsburgh Steelers are good, the NFL is better as well.
Dak?
Dak's a good one. I was on my list. Didn't say him though.
I mean, he wants that contract. I don't think Dak gets paid, but he's not going to hold out. He's still going to play. But I would say that if Dak doesn't get paid, he's playing with no pressure because he'll get signed somewhere. I think that goes in one of those things where it's on Jerry Jones because they added nothing. You can't point at the players for that. They lost people. They lost their whole defense. And then you look at it. Now Micah's unhappy. Now CD's unhappy. Dak's unhappy. You brought in Ezekiel Elliott. That was your saving grace, apparently.
Honestly, Dak Prescott. I just don't think Dak Prescott even. If I'm him, I don't think he wants a contract. I think he's looking at it I would rather be if he gets a contract with the Cowboys now, it's probably a big contract, yeah. But if he waits to the end of the year and he can pick wherever he wants to go, and there is going to be a team willing to give him the biggest deal in NFL history.
He'll get the bag no matter what.
Even if he's hurt, if he gets hurt, he will get paid.
Dak to the Saints. He'll be thrown to Chris Olave. Have Alvin Kamara, solid defense. Dennis Allen will be gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys want to get to our 2024 college football Heisman winners or Heisman winner and Heisman finalists?
I am. I'm interested. I think I'm interested in Boone's too.
Well,
I want to request to go third. I want to go third here.
Okay.
It's a weird. Oh well, that's fine. All right,
I saw the list, so I just want I know where I want my list to come pop up at.
Yeah, I'm going in blind.
I want to.
Right.
Yeah, it's good. I wish I would go in blind, but I opened up Slack.
I don't care. You put me up first. Jeff
said, Booner, can you make sure these look good? So I was like, all right, I'm going in.
Well, I sent them in our Slack, so if you looked, you might be able to see them. You get to look at them now. But anyway, I'm gonna put up yours first, Klotzy, and then we'll go kind of go in order here. We can even go like Klotz, Mike, and then Booner, me, or whatever. But here's Klotz. We're doing our Heisman finalists.
Mm-hmm.
You won't see the winner on this graphic. You have to say who's the winner. But you'll see who you have as the finalists, and you can explain why. And we're getting them out there. College football it's approaching. Lukas, tell me why these are your Heisman finalists this year.
All right, so these are my finalists. Number one, again, this is not in any order, but Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel, I think he performed much better than people thought he was at Oklahoma. And then he's transferring to Oregon now. Dan Lanning, I think, is probably going to be the next best head coach in college football in the next coming years. And then the thing that really seals it with Dillon Gabriel, one, the weapons he has around him, but I think they have a real shot when Ohio State goes into Oregon. I could really see it. As an Ohio State fan, I think they could drop that game. And then you talk about, okay, later in the season, they go into the big house, and I think that they beat up Michigan and they win that game. So he's going to have two big narrative games, and he's going to be put up massive numbers at Oregon, and I think that he's definitely going to be in that finalist. Jackson Dart. I know that it's not the Georgia quarterback like Carson Beck's in here or Jalen Monroe, but Jackson Dart's a quarterback that is going to be playing in the NFL, and he's got 2 first-round wide receivers there. And you look at what Lane Kiffin has done. I think this is the year when Ole Miss really gets on the map. They're going to be in the college football playoff, and I think he's going to be putting up a lot of numbers in the SEC, and Ole Miss is probably going to be a top 10 team throughout the college football season, so you definitely have to watch Jackson Dart because he's going to be the reason why. Number 3, again, not in order, and there's always, like, you can laugh at Cam Ward now, but there's always that one quarterback that comes out and surprises people. If you go back and you watch what Cam Ward did at Washington State, that man's arm is insane. The accuracy is deep down the field. It's probably the best in college football. And if you really ask me, like I'm being dead serious here, Shedeur Sanders is supposed to be a top 5 pick in the NFL. There is not a single thing that Shedeur Sanders can do that Cam Ward can't. Cam Ward can make any play athletically, arm talent with all of these quarterbacks up here. I would argue that Cam Ward probably has the strongest arm outside of Jackson Dart on this list, and he's mobile, and he's been able to be in a situation in Washington State where he didn't really win that much, but he played a lot. And if you look at Miami's recruiting class, what they have going on offensively, getting Damian Martinez, Xavier Restrepo is going to be probably a top 6 wide receiver in this year's draft. They got a lot of things going in Miami. And I think that if you look at their schedule too, there is a very, very real shot that Miami wins the ACC because their schedule is a cakewalk. So Cam Ward's going to be putting up numbers and he's going to be putting up highlights. He's going to be in my opinion, no doubt a Heisman finalist. And then Carson Beck, he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's in that Stenson Bennett conversation. Like, Carson Beck is a legit quarterback that can make any throw in college football. And he's going to be, in my opinion, on one of the top 2 teams in college football. And he's going to be a huge reason why. He's not going to be a point guard. He's going to be making plays for this team. So Carson Beck has to be in this conversation. So those are my 4. Are we holding the winners till the very, very end?
No. Tell me who you got.
Who's the winner?
Dillon Gabriel is going to be the winner of my 2025 Heisman, 2024 to 2025 Heisman finalist. And I think that he's just going to have it. I think, and I obviously I'm an Ohio State fan, but I think even Oregon gives Georgia a run for their money this year, I think, as far as who could be the best team in college football, because Eugene is so hard to play, and especially late in the season. Like, I know that they're in the Big Ten now, and that's a change for them. But all the teams are going to have to travel to Eugene. That's a Big Ten type of environment, especially with the weather. So I think they're built for it. They got a veteran quarterback and a lot of talent on the outside for them.
I know we're doing conference champions at some point this week. I think it was like Thursday. So are you? I don't want to give it away, but we can give it away. Maybe are you in Oregon over Ohio State right now? That's what it feels like.
No. But I can't. Like, I'd be lying to you if I'm like saying like I think there's 0 chance that Oregon wins the Big Ten. Like, there's a very real shot that Oregon wins the Big Ten.
Love that.
They're a top 3 team in the country. And I like, even if as an Ohio State fan, I couldn't even be disappointed. My thing is Ohio State needs to beat Michigan this year. That's what they need to do. Be in the Big Ten championship. Because if they lose to Oregon, okay, that's fine. Now you got the college football playoff. You just got smacked in your mouth. Now you got to answer. So,
and by the way, this is not in order. These are your Heisman finalists. There's no numbers. It's not in order. These are just your 4 guys that are going to be in New York. Or what?
No, you can keep going. I'm sorry. I'll just wait.
So just to clarify, so people don't think like it's ranked. It's not ranked. So going forward, when I put up everyone else's list, not ranked. But I don't hate this. I mean, I like the Cam Ward pick. I think that's shows moxie. I think that's what I like.
That one thing. Go ahead, Moon.
That's just all I was going to say. Like the Cam Ward is interesting to me this year. Like Miami's going to be good. Like they're quietly like they have a chance to make the college football playoffs. Like last year they had a good team. They just the coaching kind of killed them. It felt like a little bit at some point in the season.
Yeah,
like, remember when they had that one game where instead of kneeing the ball, and they win the game, and then they just wanted to run it, and they fumble it and lose. Like I'm just interested to see Cam Ward because I think he's a good player. It's just there's just some guys when they transfer, it's a hit or miss sometimes, and I think Cam Ward's going to be really good. That's Heisman finalist. That's where I like.
It's a reach, but I just think it's gonna ball out.
Which I think you need to have a couple reaches on these. Like you need to have some because there is always those guys who come out of nowhere, and I think there's more guys this year because there are like out of the Heisman finalists last year, not one returns this year. So you're sitting there and you're like looking, you're like this could be anyone this year. Obviously, you have the top guys, but there's going to be a couple sneaky ones that are going to surprise some people.
Well, here's Gentry. Talk to me.
All right, like Lukas said, kind of about the first 2, Dillon Gabriel, Carson Beck. I think those 2 are going to be playing for the 2 of the top 3 teams in the country. I think Carson Beck and a Georgia quarterback will always make his way there, just the way the team's built. I think Dillon Gabriel coming from Oklahoma. I think they still have, even after all the guys that left at Oregon, I still think they have good weapons around him for him to put up quality numbers. And like I said, I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the nation. And then number 3, they're not numbered, but Jalen Milroe. And this is my one where I'm not too confident on how great Alabama will be this year, but I think the weapons that they have on offense, and with Jalen Milroe taking another step forward, obviously in his development through this season, I think he has the potential to put up Heisman numbers. And then same thing with Quinn Ewers. Obviously, they lose Adonai Mitchell and they lose a couple other guys on the offense, but he's one of the more complete quarterbacks in college football. I think even losing guys like that, you still know what you're going to get out of him. And obviously Texas still has, a lot of hard games on their schedule, but with him getting a couple wins over those guys, it may even help his case. So
I Quinn Ewers there.
I was fighting because between him and Jackson Dart, I was fighting, but I think Quinn, I think he's going to be good. Don't get me wrong. But I look at just what he lost in his supporting cast compared to what Jackson Dart has right now, and that's what did it for me. But I think to bash Quinn Ewers being on here, sorry. It would be ignorant.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Hey, I'm going to be honest. To be fair, Lukas, I thought we were doing 5 people, and Jackson Dart was my 5th, and him and Quinn were the ones I was,
I love the Jalen Milroe pick, and it's not even like I'm a huge Jalen Milroe guy. I just think, and I'll get to it more later, but Jalen Milroe, I think with his dude, he was I think like 6th in Heisman voting last year, 5th or 6th, just because of dude, he had 12 rushing TDs. Like he's gonna do what he does. But all right, Boone, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll just say this about Gentry's list. Like I've been a big Quinn Ewers fan, and like it's the same with Jackson Dart and like Jalen Milroe. Like I'll just say, I don't know. I only have 2 of these 4 guys on my list, and same with Klotzi's, which I think might shock some people because I think like typically you're like I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I don't.
We still got to see with a lot of these.
I just looked at your guys' list, and I was in my head. I was like, I think I only for a second, I'm like, I might have messed up because I only have 2 of those 4 guys, and then I realized it's a list of 4. Like,
well, let's get to yours.
It's a very limited list. All right, boys.
All
right, boys.
I like one of these.
This is a shocking list because Klotz, I've had a lot of conversations with you about Jackson Dart, and I said he's a dark horse for a Heisman, and I still believe Jackson Dart has a chance to win the Heisman. But if I had to sit down and say who's going to be in New York come December, you have to. There's a lot of different things. It's the same thing with the Hutch Defensive Player of the Year. There's narratives and there's things that go behind it with the voting. It happens every year. We know about it. Number one, I have Dillon Gabriel. Obviously, Dillon Gabriel, I think, is probably going to be the best player in college football this year, like hands down. I think Oregon, we'll go over it later. I think Oregon's going to have a massive, massive season. And Lanning, I think Klotz, me and you are lockstep a lot on today's show. I think Lanning's going to end up being one of the best college football coaches in America within the next few years. But I think what he did, so I just looked at some of the numbers here, like with Bo Nix. Bo Nix's best season at Auburn was 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. His last season at Oregon, 2 years later or 3 years later, because I think his best season was his second year too, his sophomore year. 2 years later, when Bo Nix was potentially a Heisman guy, 4,100 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So like Dan Lanning took Bo Nix in and said, "Hey, we're gonna turn you into something. We know what you have." Now think about a guy like Dillon Gabriel. For when he was at Central Florida, he put numbers up. When he was at Oklahoma, he put numbers up. He had 3,600 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. This kid's going to go out there and throw for 50 touchdowns and less than 5 interceptions and 4,500 yards. Like he is going to have a massive, massive season this year. So I think Dillon Gabriel is going to be. I'm not going to give away my winner, but I'm very high on Dillon Gabriel. Number 2, okay, I'm not going to do number 2. No order. Don't forget, no order. Travis Hunter, though. Second on my list is Travis Hunter. This is one of those picks, guys, where Travis Hunter, you don't see a guy like him in college football come around that often, like once every 6-7 years. Like this does not happen. Like a guy with Travis Hunter, last year he had 700 receiving yards, and I think he missed like 3 or 4 games. If he goes out there and just gets 1,000 receiving yards plus, and say he scores 6 or 7 touchdowns, and he is like the best corner in football, like. Dude, they could win 8 games. They could win 4 games. Travis Hunter will be in New York. Like you don't have a guy like that who does what he does and isn't in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Like he is just the best player in the country on both sides. So like it's you have to have him in New York. So I think when it comes down to it, I think Colorado does win more games. But when you're just looking at player as a whole, this kid's going to probably be hands down all around the best football player in the country, and you cannot keep this kid out of New York. Like it'll be impossible. Like he will get votes. Next guy. Actually, I'm gonna go to the end first. Let me talk about Carson Beck first. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna talk about Carson Beck. The reason why Carson Beck is on this list, I think he has a chance to win it. I was actually telling Jeff this today. Like he put up numbers last year, like almost 4,000 yards, 20-something touchdowns, not a ton of interceptions. He is on the best team in football. Like Georgia's the best team in college football. They have been for the last 3 years. I know Michigan won last year, but Georgia has lost 1 game in like 2 or 3 seasons. It's incredible. And this kid's the best player on the best team in all of college football. He's better than Stetson Bennett, I think. Like he's going to put a better year up than Stetson Bennett. And I heard someone say today, I was listening to a podcast, and they brought up a great point. This kid is playing in the SEC. With their schedule, he's probably going to have the most nationally televised games out of any quarterback in the entire country. And he's going to play in the biggest games, the SEC championship. I know, actually, I take that back because the votes come out after. Actually, no, the SEC championship.
They have a gauntlet.
He's going to constantly be in primetime football, and he will go out there and win every single one of those games, and he will put up numbers in every game. So, like, I think Carson Beck has a really, really good shot at actually winning it. And then the last guy here, no one knows who Ollie Gordon is. You're going to know this year. Ollie Gordon last year. I know Blake Corum was at Michigan, but quietly, Ollie Gordon was the best back in all of football. This kid, like, they didn't give him the rock. I went and looked. He didn't really start getting the rock until about week 5. And then he goes out there and just no one can stop this kid. No one. He had like 1,700 plus yards, over 2,000 all-purpose yards. He is going to go out there this year and have over 2,000 rushing yards. He had 21 total touchdowns last year, and he's probably going to have 25 plus total touchdowns this year. As long as he stays healthy, Oklahoma State will be in the college football playoffs, and Ollie Gordon will be in New York. Like that is a hands down, no question to it. I don't think he's going to win it because it's hard for running backs have won it, but it's It's a quarterback's award, essentially. We know what that is. Like Kenneth Walker not getting in. The difference between, though, Kenneth Walker not making it to New York and Ollie Gordon is Kenneth Walker had the year he did and then went to the NFL. Ollie Gordon, I think he was a sophomore last year. Let me double check.
Yeah.
I think he's going into his junior year. So he had a year like Kenneth Walker, and he's coming back to do it again. So like that second year and this second time, he's coming back around, and he will be in New York. As long as Ollie Gordon stays healthy, this kid's in New York. If you haven't watched Ollie Gordon, he's special. Like you see running backs come around in college every once in a while that you're like, oh, this dude's like an absolute dog. Like you've seen the Derrick Henrys, the market. Go watch this kid. Like he's so fat. Like just go watch him. I'm not even
huge too.
Yeah,
his speed is just boom, boom, boom. So I'm a big Ollie Gordon fan. I had to put him in there. I could not leave him out.
Yeah, I was fighting. You can ask Jeff. I made my finalists, and it was like the first graphic that we put up, and I texted him again, and I put Ollie Gordon in there instead of Cam Ward, and I was like, fuck it, do the first one, because I do like Cam Ward a lot, but Ollie Gordon, love that take. He's definitely like top 6 or 7 for me. Like honestly, I wasn't thinking about Travis Hunter that much just because like they're probably going to win 7-8 games. You're not going to get in the Heisman, but you are like spot on. Like Jabril Peppers was in New York. Like I think when you have situations like that, the college football is going to recognize it, and he's going to be a top 10 pick. There's no reason to. Like he's as a wide receiver and corner, he has less impact on the game, but you can still see what he's doing.
And typically
he's going to be helping them win games.
You usually see quarterbacks and you maybe one like running back or one defensive back or whatever it is, or a wide receiver. I do think this year you're going to end up seeing 2 quarterbacks. And like, I legit, like when I made this list, I was like, I actually think like, I think this could be right. I think these 4 guys could be there. I
can see it. I don't hate it, Boone. I don't hate it.
I love
it, fellas.
Hey, Ollie Gordon.
This next list isn't. Oh, and my winner, I didn't even say my winner. I have Dylan Gabriel winning it all. I think Dylan Gabriel is the best player in college
Gentry,
football.
who did you have winning it?
I did too, Dylan.
All 3 of us? Okay.
Yep. But it was a toss-up, honestly. I think Carson Beck's going to be really close. That's like my 1 and 2. So,
yeah. I see one player that I
don't think you guys
I
are
saw
ready.
his and I went, oh, here we go.
I don't think you guys are ready for this.
Yeah, I don't think I am.
Heisman finalist. Come on.
Bro said, come on.
Come on. All right, let me walk you through it. Take a seat. Dylan Gabriel.
Already.
Dylan Gabriel, I don't even have to mention it. You guys have talked enough about it. It is the obvious. I'm going to be honest. I'll just say this now. I'll get it out the way. Dude's a Heisman winner. All right. He's going to win the Heisman. We actually sweep everywhere on the show. It's a sweep. We all think he's going to win the Heisman. But I do have him on this list along with Ollie Gordon. Everything you just said, Boone, you nailed it. I mean, the dude got the lion's share of the carries. A couple games into the season, he still ended with 1,500 yards and 20 plus TDs. He's going to be in New York. It's usually how it is. They'll have a running back or a wide receiver, a skill position, some sort of player in there along with quarterbacks. I think it's going to be Ollie Gordon. So we align there. I don't think it'll be all quarterbacks. So Ollie Gordon, he'll be a finalist. Jalen Milroe. I get it. Jalen Milroe, not the most accurate passer. I know that was a big thing when they faced Michigan. Did not look good. I understand that. But I just think with Alabama, I love Kalen DeBoer, and I love what they've done. They've recruited, multiple 4-star, 5-star wide receivers. Ryan Williams, going to be very, very good for them. And I'm not just saying that because I used him on college football, 25. I'm not just saying that. I think Jalen Milroe is going to have the rushing stats. He's probably going to have more passing TD, roughly around the same number, but even last year he ended 6th in the Heisman race. So I think with Alabama, where I think they'll be at the end of the year, what he's going to do for that offense on just what we expect, I think he'll be in New York. I think he'll be a finalist. And then the last one, oh boys, you ain't ready for this, and you are not ready for this. Tennessee, the Vols.
Yeah, God,
the Vols. Let me explain this take because it's a risky take. All right, it's a very risky take, and I'll tell you why. Tennessee could miss out on the playoffs, and this whole thing is a wash. Or Tennessee makes the playoffs on the back of Nico Iamaleava. Yeah, I said
there
that.
You
correctly.
go. There you go.
And we were driving to Nashville. We were listening to Vols radio.
And I knew this is where you were going to go with it.
I knew this is where you were going to go with it.
This guy just got convinced from a.
Hey, hold on. The Vols got an absolute stud at quarterback. I'm telling you, I 5-star. The only player that was recruited higher than him, the only quarterback, because he was the second quarterback in the country, Arch Manning. Like, he is 5-star, absolute stud, checks all the boxes to be an NFL quarterback. In Tennessee last year, Joe Milton didn't work out. They had a down year after Hendon Hooker. I think this year, Tennessee bounced back. Last year, defensively, they were pretty good. Offensively is where the problems lied, and a lot of that you can blame on whoever. But this year, I think with a new quarterback, with Nico now, not a true freshman, going into his sophomore year, he's primed to have a big year. I'm telling you right now. And you know what? If he doesn't win it this year, we're running it back next year. Yeah, I'm telling you right now. If he's not a finalist this year, he will be next year. And if he's not a finalist next year, he will be the following year. This dude is a Heisman finalist. He has all the tools. I think he's going to be very, very good. And they have a pretty good wide receiver core over there. You can even Google Mr. Squirrel White. Google it. Hey, Squirrel White plays wide receiver for the Vols.
This is true.
Yes, I'm not lying. Dude's name is Squirrel White. Trust Squirrel White. Hey, trust. All right. Nico, gonna have a big season. I think he shocks a lot of people. You can get him on, I think on most betting apps, he's like plus 1,500. I like it. All right. I like the odds. And he's going to be
value. I smell value.
I smell value. But I will say Dylan Gabriel will win the award. We all agree. But Nico's in the A. He's a finalist. Don't get it twisted. Booner?
Go ahead, Boone.
Yeah, I just can you throw the graphic back up real quick? I just have a quick question for you here, Jeff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I just want to know that the team that won in the SEC, you have 2 SEC quarterbacks on here. Neither of those 2 quarterbacks are going to be an SEC champion this year. Does that make you think hey, maybe I should throw the quarterback that won an SEC championship in New York? Like, typically that's what happens, but I'm just wondering. Like, that's just a legit question.
I think Nico's case specifically is going to be how much he does for Tennessee. I don't know if they make the playoffs, I think he's got a chance if he puts up big numbers. Like, I think you can go back and look at Heisman candidates that weren't like champions of their conference, like Heisman finalists, not winner. I don't think he'll win it, but Heisman finalists. It depends how much he does, which I expect, obviously, him being here to do a lot. All right. I expect him to do a lot. I think if they go out, they make the playoffs, they sneak into a 12-team playoff, they get in. I don't think that matters. Like, to be honest, I think he's still the Carson Beck thing. The reason why he's not there, like, I understand Georgia's going to be very, very good by default, Carson Beck, because he's going to have, decent numbers. I mean, he'll have probably what he had last year, in my opinion. What do you have, like 20-something TDs? Like, that's probably what he's going to have, which is still pretty good. But I'm sick of the Carson Beck hype. I'm sorry. I'll say it.
You want something new?
No,
I'm just going to say this.
I'm just sick of the Carson Beck hype. And I just am. I've listened to a lot of college. All I hear is how Carson Beck is going to be a Heisman finalist. I said, you know what? Screw that. Nah, we're going with something different. And I'll tell you that.
From the front.
Nah, not in my book. Nico Iamaleava. Yes. Said it right again. That's 2 times, by the way, in a segment. What were you gonna say?
Good for you.
I just want to throw out there, like, I just think, like, over the last 5, maybe like 10 years, every single SEC championship, I think besides actually just last year with Jalen Milroe, I think like in 2022, Stetson Bennett, Heisman finalist, 21. Bryce Young, or not Bryce Young. Who was 21? Who was the Bama? Was that Devontae Smith or Devontae Smith was 20? 21 was Devontae Smith. 20, Tua, 19, Joe Burrow. Like, there's just an underlying like SEC champion, Heisman finalist, SEC champ. Hey, just something to think about. You can always change. I will allow you to have one change, Jeff. I will allow it.
I don't think that's a narrative, Booner.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's kidding me. No, you can take that, shove it up your ass. Nico's going to being a Heisman finalist. I don't give a damn what you're. Hey, I didn't argue with your picks. You can have all your picks.
No,
all right?
That's what. No, yeah, I will. You could bounce back off mine. I mean,
I don't want. Hey, like you say, Boone. This is my take. I don't want any disagreements. This is my take.
Okay. You know what? Yeah, you're right. I won't disagree with you.
All right, don't screw with me. Nico, have faith.
You know what? How about this, Nico? Tennessee has a very. I've said it before. We were talking college. We were talking ball this week. I said Tennessee has a schedule.
Tennessee.
Yeah, and the only 2 big games they do play NC State, I believe, if I remember correctly. Tough football game. They play Bama. Say they lose to Bama. Okay, that's a 1 loss. Okay, say you play Georgia. They do. You lose to them. All right, that's 2 losses. Your only 2 losses going into the end of the year is Georgia, Bama. You're probably getting in as an 11-10 seed in the tournament, which in that case, Nico, if he has good stats, they might look at him and be like, that's pretty good. But then you have to look at Carson Beck's stat. I'm not disagreeing. And then they looked pretty good. He's in the playoffs. He has a chance.
Hey, but here's another one. Hendon Hooker.
Football is a little different from 2 years ago. College football, completely different.
The point I'm bringing up is, you know what really set him up for success before he went down? Beating Alabama.
That dirt orange.
Beating Alabama. Imagine a situation.
Those checker touchdowns.
Humongous upset. That's going to go in his favor. All right. And he's got a couple big games. He might lose all of them. He might steal one. All right. And if he plays,
if he steals one, you're sitting in a good spot.
That's all it is, Boone. It's faith in the talent of Nico, and I think he's going to be very, very good. So,
to be honest, Jeff, I mean, he goes head to head with Jalen Milroe, and he goes head to head with Carson Beck.
So
you're going to find out.
And Jackson Dart.
And Jackson Dart. I don't know if they play Ole Miss. Do they play Ole Miss?
I think they play Mississippi State. I don't know if they play Ole Miss.
Yeah, I don't know. But still, hey, Carson Beck versus Nico. Carson versus Nico.
Hey, I wanted to shake it up. All right. I wanted to shake it up.
I bet you did. I bet you did, F.A.
Shake up the entire. Hey, people going with the same guys? Nope. We're going with.
I mean, you had the same running back on there.
Don't care. I had Nico. You didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, went away. Hey, you know who shares the same opinion as me?
Joe Klatt.
Cowherd. You know what?
It was one of 2 people.
Actually, not the same. He's a little more egregious. I'm not going to lie. His take was pretty aggressive. He thinks Michigan's overrated. All right.
This is a very fine take by Colin.
I'm going to play this clip of Colin Cowherd speaking about Michigan, why they're overrated, and then we'll get the Michigan men, their opinion on this, and Mr. Ohio State. All right.
Klotz, we do have to order you some Michigan gear within the next week. So
amazing blue.
Can I pick the player that it is?
It doesn't even have to be a player. We'll discuss a couple different pieces of gear, and then we'll put it down to like 4. And then
I'm a fan of Colson Loveland. I'll say that. You know, I like.
You don't get to choose.
Up there for you boys.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna go. I might get you like.
We're just gonna give you a nice JJ McCarthy shirt or something like that.
Oh, no, not the JJ.
You don't get the pitch. You don't get the pitch.
Yeah, I agree.
Just give me the Block M shirt if that.
Yeah, just give them.
No, we get to pick your fit. I might get you
that's like
overalls, JJ McCarthy. You're with maybe like.
I would go overalls before. If you give me a JJ McCarthy shirt, I'll just feel like a bitch. Clip my nuts.
All right. Well, speaking of clip, let's hear Colin Cowherd speak about Michigan.
Michigan's the most overrated in the top 25. They lost not only depth, they lost like leaders. They lost like locker room leaders, fifth-year seniors. They also lost the best quarterback Harbaugh's had, who I watched him before he got hurt, meniscus tear, had a terrific debut. It's very difficult to lose not only quality starters, but veteran quality starters, like who were clubhouse leaders. I think Michigan will not be a top 20 team. Overrated.
He just slid that in there at the end. Pause. Oh my God.
Oh, no.
To his point, they did lose a lot of players, but they still have one of the best defenses in the nation. And I'm still confident in Alex Orji with some of the weapons they have on the offensive end that they'll be decent. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 5 team, but I still think they're in the top 20. They will have a top 3, in my opinion, probably top 2 defense in the nation. So
sounds like someone huffing on a
certain extent, I get his point. We had the most players drafted last year, so he's somewhat correct.
you were puffing on copium for a second. I was going to say.
No, we're still going to be a top 20 team. Colin Cowherd's a fucking douchebag anyway. So.
Unk just put a dip of Copenhagen in. That's what he just did.
Hey, top 20. Top 20 is aggressive. I will. That's very aggressive.
They will be top 20.
This is what's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you guys how it is. Who's the guy that does Brian Windhorst? I see it right now. Michigan lost a lot. What Gentry said, they lost a lot. You lost a lot, but you still have a lot. Now, you could argue Blake Corum, one of the best running backs in the country, lose him. Massive leader, gone. J.J. McCarthy,
gone.
Leader, Heisman candidate, gone. Right? Your head coach, Jim Harbaugh, gone. One of the best coaches in all of football, not just college football, all of football. Now, I will say this. Michigan's not going to be the number one team in the country like they were last year. They're not going to be a top 5 team in the country like they were last year. I, as a Michigan fan, I'll be realistic and say there is going to be some type of growing pains. Things are going to happen, and they're going to struggle in some games, and you're going to be like, all right, people are going to say, oh, like there's going to be the losers out there that say, oh, it's because you're not cheating anymore. Oh, it's because you finally have this hard schedule. No, maybe it's because your head coach is gone, you lost your quarterback and your running back, and you got 50 guys drafted to the NFL. Like, yeah, that's probably it. So they're going to be top 20. What my projection in my mind, what it goes to with Michigan is they are going to have their growing pains. You do have, to Gentry's point, you have a top 5 defense in college football, most likely. You have the best defensive line in college football. So you are going to sit there and compete every day. Like those games versus Oregon and Ohio State and, Texas, you're going to be in those games strictly just because of your defense. That's it. Like, you're going to, now what does your offense do? That's going to depend if you end up actually winning those games. And they easily could go out there. And if that offense and Alex Orji doesn't take that step and they aren't what JJ and them were last year, they could easily lose those 3 games. And if you lose those 3 games, you're sitting on the outside looking into the college football playoffs. Like, if there's a Michigan fan here and that's in the chat wants to tell me that they're locking in Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon as all wins, you're lying, and you're just lying to yourself. It is going to be an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. And on top of that, you have a new head coach and you have a new roster that you're fighting with. So, it's going to be a gauntlet. Like, there is a chance that Michigan is sitting on the outside looking into the college football playoffs strictly because you are taking a different step this year. Now, that's where it's like, what do they do in those 3 games are their most important games. Like, if they win one of those 3 games and they went out, they're sitting there with 2 losses. They're in the college football playoffs, most likely. But you cannot lose more than 2 games. Like, you cannot. And then that's all it comes down to. Like, if week 2, and we're going to be in Ann Arbor, fellas. Spoiler alert, we're going to be doing an event in Ann Arbor, and we're going to be in Ann Arbor and versus Texas. If they lose, or if they beat Texas, I'm feeling pretty optimistic for the season. But if they lose versus Texas, then you're sitting there and you're going, you have to at least beat Oregon or Ohio State. And yeah, if there's Michigan people now, I'd love to know how you guys feel, but it is a tough schedule.
Hey, no need to fear. Connor's telling you.
That's the biggest loss the Michigan Wolverine football program took this offseason. He's out of there. He's out of there.
I don't even know if is that him? That's not him. That looks fake. That looks fake.
Oh my god! I actually.
But real quick, you guys get your laughs out. Whatever.
It was funny, dude.
You guys get your, hey, Connor Stanley's all time great.
Oh god.
They will not be outside the top 20 though. Like, they will not. They will be a top 20 team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a lock for a playoff spot because they are, like, I need to see what this team is first. Like, with all these other teams that are in the top 12, like Oklahoma State returns a bunch. You know who they are. Utah, you know what Utah is, and Utah is probably going to win the Big 12. Like, you know what Utah is. Like, you know what these teams. Oh, and by the way, too, quiet Heisman finalist.
Hey, Boone.
Cam Rising. I had him on my original list on my sticky note at my work. I had Cam Rising. I crossed him off and added Travis Hunter. Yeah, I added Travis Hunter.
Didn't have to choose Cam.
I don't know. I am in there is this year phase with Michigan. It's like you need to see what the Sharon Moore experiment and Alex Orji experiment looks like. You have to. Like if you're sitting here telling me they're a lock to make the playoffs, you're lying to yourselves and you're just saying. And I know there's Michigan fans out there that'll do it. I'll be realistic and say the truth, just like the Booner path.
Well, Booner, this is how it's going to go, okay? Because listen, Michigan, they're not going to beat Texas, they're not going to beat Ohio State, and they're not going to beat Oregon. So who are they going to beat? Fresno State, Arkansas State, like who? Michigan State. Who are their wins going to be? So
this is a haters. This is a haters.
This is where
can't start it off like that and then have a real tank.
This is where we'll break bread.
You have to be real.
I'm being real. They'll be a top 20 team, but there is 0.0 chance that they'll be in the college football playoffs this year.
That's wrong. That's where
I think when you look at the teams like
how can I
Clemson,
just be realistic with you and you can't do it for me?
Hold on, let him finish. Hold on,
I think when you look at the ACC, I think if Miami wins it, Clemson still has a very good chance of getting in. When you look at the SEC, I think you could have Ole Miss, Bama, and obviously Georgia in there. When you look at the Big Ten, I think you're going to have Ohio State, Oregon. And then when you look at that, they got to throw in I'm going to use exhibit like Liberty, Boise State, one of those big teams right there. That's
7.
Your team. And then which conference am I forgetting?
You named them all.
So I think you're gonna have Utah, you're gonna have Oklahoma State, like we said, and then when you look at it, it's gonna be between Michigan, probably like LSU. There's gonna be a lot of teams just floating in there, and then you gotta look at quality of wins, and Michigan's gonna have none. There's not gonna be one quality one that Michigan has.
Klotz,
top 20 team.
This is where me and you are gonna butt heads on this show here.
Okay.
I went out on a limb. I could have been a Michigan slappy, and I could have been like, they're a lock. All they have to do is win one game, and they're a lock. They're going to be in the college football. No, I'm realistic. Maybe because you're an Ohio State fan, no offense, that you don't want to be realistic about Michigan. I'm going to be I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone and be realistic when it comes to Michigan this year. I said it earlier today. I'm going to be realistic when it comes to Michigan. They are going to it's going to take a lot to get to the college football playoffs. They have one of the best defenses in the country, top 5. If that offense somehow just gets any cylinder going in one of those 3 games, they have a good chance of making the college football playoffs. If you like the college football playoffs, the 12 team, if you're a 2-loss team, you have a chance to get in. So the 0.0%, like you're saying there's 0% chance, that's not true. Because in Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, if that offense clicks at all with the defense they have, they just go out there and score a couple. Like they're going to have a chance to win one of those games. And if they pull out one of those games, it's not a 0% chance. Like if they pull one of those games out, now I'm sitting here telling you that they easily couldn't, and they could easily get 3 losses. And they're sitting on the outside at number 15 looking in going, man, what if we would have pulled one of those off?
What percent would you give them?
I would give them like a 20% chance, 25% chance. But then, like, let's be realistic. We're going to have realistic conversations.
Okay,
don't say realistically. Don't say realistically
because
and say 0.0.
In my opinion, I do not see a path for them to beat Texas. Texas is probably the one they have the best chance against, in my opinion, because it's at home. I think Texas is probably the one they have the most chance against. Great defense. Texas has a great offense, and I think Michigan's offense is not going to be able to do much against Texas, especially that early on. Like, Sharon Moore is the biggest X factor here because he has to be built for that schedule. And I understand he had that win against Ohio State, but I'm sorry, that Ohio State team is much better now, and I just think their schedule, the consistency of it, like I'll hand them the win against USC. And I don't know if I should, but I think Michigan will handle USC because of their defense. When you look at that, like, I don't see, like, their win will be USC, the quality win. I don't see a path. I don't see a path for them beating any of those 3 teams.
This guy's going to make me have to switch my take, and I'm going to say it's a lock. Like, and then now
no,
just maybe
no. I don't see them at all.
They play Oregon and Texas at home. They're going to have a chance to win one of those games, and with that defense they have. I'm about to switch my take, and I'm about to say Michigan's going to destroy Ohio State this year, and I can't wait till that week.
If you believe that, that's fine.
I tried to be realistic and come down to earth with you. Can't do it.
In my opinion, there is no chance for Michigan. If they lose 2 of those, or if they win one of those games, that's fine. I don't see that happening at all. And I'm not even like I'm looking at personnel, the coaching that they're going against, and just where Michigan's coming off of, and the chemistry they have. Bro, look at Texas's roster compared to Michigan. Look at Stark compared to Sharon Moore.
Giving up on their defense.
No, I'm not at all. I'm giving the credit. Michigan has a good defense. Like, I'm not denying that whatsoever. Michigan's offense, though, when you're going up against those Big 12 schools, especially Texas isn't the same anymore. Like, Texas has a legit defense now. They have legit offensive weapons. How are they going to put up points on Texas? Like, who's going to be putting up the points for them this year?
Texas,
like Alex Orji, I think is going to be could progress into a good quarterback, but early on, Alex Orji, consistency wise, is going to struggle, especially against a team like Texas.
Alex Orji ain't it, man. I'll just tell you right
I think he's going to have moments where he's really fucking good, but there's going to be moments where it's really ugly, and I think Texas early on is going to be one of them. Because you can't just run the ball against Texas, in my opinion.
He's got an arm, though. He just got an arm, and he's mobile. But I've been saying it for months, dude. They got 3 losses. So I don't know how to take that however you want to take it. I think they
is it a 100% chance they have 3 losses, or you give them a little? They have a chance at one of those. 3.
My opinion is they're going to lose 3 games. I mean, there's always a chance. Like I don't want to say like I can't see into the future, but my opinion, I think they lose to Oregon, Texas, Ohio State. So that's the 3. At USC, I think they beat, but that's not just a gimme either. And then the rest of the teams, I think Michigan they'll end up beating. But those 3 losses to me, I would feel pretty confident saying, yeah. So I'm probably more aligned with you, Boone. Like give them a 20% chance, like that's fine. Yeah, like, okay.
I just think that's like there is going to be a drop off. Yes, like that's obvious, but just being like it's a drop off to where every single big game they play, they have no chance and they're not going to win. Like they are going. You're in college football, like even in the SEC, like Bama versus Tennessee. Like Tennessee is outside the top 10. They're 15th, I think, ranked right now. Tennessee's going to have a chance to beat Bama and Georgia. You're not going to say it's not possible. Like Michigan has the defense. Like it's going to be a different Michigan team. Like you're missing a lot of pieces, but they're still going to be a top 15 team in the country. So it's like that's still going to be a massive matchup. With that being said, Oregon and Texas are both at the Big House. So like that's another advantage to where you're sitting there and you're like, all right, if they pull just one of those 2 out and they go 1-1 in those games, they're sitting in a pretty good chance to where they have an opportunity. And I'm not saying you want to lose to Ohio State, but you can lose to Ohio State and maybe slip up one more, not slip up one more time, but lose to Ohio State and you're sitting there with 2 losses. Your losses are to potentially either Oregon or Texas, 2 teams who probably will be in the playoffs, or in Ohio State, who's a top 10 or top 2 team in the country. Like then you're sitting there and you're like, all right, let's compare resumes here. Tennessee with 2 losses that lost to, 2 teams. Michigan, who lost to Oregon and Ohio State, who are top 5 teams. I don't know, a small bit. An NC State who lost to two ACC teams, or like a Miami who lost to 2 ACC teams, which ACC is down this year coming up. Like they have good teams, but they're not as good as the Big Ten. Like you're going to probably look at Michigan and be like, all right, we're going to take them over Miami, who lost to these ACC's 2 teams. You know what I'm saying? Like all you have to do is you have to look at this season, win the games you're supposed to win, and you have to win Oregon or Texas. And if you beat Oregon or Texas, you're sitting in a good spot going forward.
Here's something that we got to think about too, though, Boone. And I'm not trying to get a rise out of you, but when I list these teams, okay, we're talking about the Penn State Nittany Lions right now. Tell me the losses in their schedule.
Penn State's going to make it.
Okay, so what I'm saying, do you think? Hold on, just let me finish. So if Penn State finishes,
I've gone through.
That's 3 Big Ten teams, though, because you're gonna have Ohio State.
There's not Oregon. A cap on conference teams.
I understand that, but when you look at it, if you have a 3-loss team compared to teams that are going to be playing more difficult schedules and more quality wins, that's why I'm saying.
Quit saying 3-loss teams. The only way they get in is 2.
I think Michigan's a 3-loss team.
The scenario we're breaking, I get it if you think they are, but the only way they get in, if they get 3 losses, Klotzy, don't even bother to look at them getting in. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, don't. But like the fact is if they somehow beat either Texas or Oregon, they play them both at home. If they can go 1-1, then they're going to have a really good chance of getting in. If they lose 3, they're out. So if you're like 100% 3, but like I think they have a chance to go 1-1. In the Oregon, Texas, both at home. You have a good defense. It's going to be a gritty game, a tough game, but find a way to get it done. One of them. That's the only way they get in.
I guess we're really arguing over like chance versus like what you think. Like you think there's a chance they win? Yeah. Like there's a chance USC beats Michigan, I think. Will they? Probably not, Lucas is telling you he doesn't think they'll
I hope
win.
Ohio State loses 100.
I know for a fact Michigan is
if
not.
Ohio State loses to Michigan, it'll probably be the funniest shit ever.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would never talk college football with Klotz again. Never.
Why?
That'd be the best.
You'll be banned. You'll be banned for a year of college football talk.
Dude, if that's like probably would be the biggest upset of the season, in my opinion, like national wise, like that Ohio State should be favored over Michigan so much. If Ohio State loses that game,
Alex Orgy in the end zone.
Dude, I would because this is will be the most talented Ohio State roster I've ever watched. So if Alex Orgy, Sharon Moore, Donovan Edwards, Samaj Morgan goes out there and just put on a show. I'm not going to include Colson Loveland because very legitimate college football player.
Actually, my mistake. I think Orgy in the end zone was RG3. I think I was RG3.
Yeah, no more of that. No more of that.
No more Orgy in the end zone.
I tried to be realistic here, boys.
It's all right, Boone.
Hey, I think we all were realistic.
I think you're realistic, Boone.
Yeah,
you were being realistic, Boone. I just want to get you riled up a little bit.
Let's answer some questions. I need to calm down before I go to bed.
Burning issues mailbag. Do you think the Lions could trade for a running back, linebacker, cornerback, or for a wide receiver X?
Most likely a wide receiver out of those. If that's the question.
Well, could you think they'll trade a running back, linebacker, or cornerback? I don't think. Who do you trade out of those?
Oh, could. Oh,
maybe. I mean, who you trade?
Oh, I thought it was saying trade for.
Like trade for
linebacker.
Yeah, I don't know who they would. I would say they just sign one. I don't think they'll trade a player away.
Wait, they're saying we'll trade one of ours?
Yeah. Could trade a running back, linebacker, or cornerback for a wide receiver X.
I think they're saying trade for. I could be wrong. I need a clarification. I see burning issues in the chat.
Okay.
No,
I don't know how to answer this, man.
Wide receiver. I'll just say that. Wide receiver.
I'm going to say they're going to trade for a wide receiver.
All right.
That was really confusing. Next question.
All the way mailbag. Who would y'all like to see in the Natty or win the Natty this year?
Michigan, back to back. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
astonishing take out of you,
dude, it's not a take. They're obviously not winning the Natty. Fuck.
I'll go Oregon.
I don't know. Anyone but Ohio State will be cool with me.
It'll probably be like Georgia. Oregon in the national championship game. That would be
it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see Oregon win. Dan Lanning, Dylan Gabriel's good. He seems like a great dude. I'd be hyped for Oregon.
I think Georgia ends up winning it, to be honest. If I had to pick a winner. Oh, we're doing that Friday.
Buckeyes,
that's
baby.
on me.
The
Bucks.
Well, no, it's saying who would you like to see?
Oh, well, Michigan. Bucks. If not Michigan,
not who will.
You know who would be a cool team to see win it, and probably could have a chance. Who actually will be in the college football playoffs? Utah. That'd be a sick team.
Yeah.
That would be sick to see Cam Rising. Dillingham or whatever his name is, the head coach, comes in on a Harley.
Ole Miss would be a team I would root for in the
Ole Miss is a one.
Yeah, I like Lane. I love Lane Kiffin, dude. He's a good dude.
Dude, an Ole Miss, Utah championship would be unbelievable.
That would be something. That'd be the people's championship game right there.
Oh my gosh, that would be the best.
Utah hasn't won a national championship since Alex Smith.
Do it. They're doing it this year. They might do it this year.
But you know what? For my narrative, not that it's not really a narrative. It's just personal. I would like to see Alabama just the Kalen DeBoer hype. I think
I think that's came out of right field. Where did that come from? That's your boy now?
I want to be proven for my narrative. I want to be proven right about Kalen. I think he's an excellent head coach. So if they win it, fuck it. I can be like, hey,
dude,
told you.
I just don't care for Alabama to ever win another national championship.
No, it's not even that. It's okay. You missed the point. All right, we'll end the show here. But anyway, appreciate all you guys.
It said team though. It said team.
Who would you like? And I said Alabama because of
it fits narrative.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Anyway, we'll get out of here. All right, I'm out of gas. I just can't go. I can't argue with you, Boone. I'm out. All right. Hey. Appreciate all you guys in the chat. Get your merch, official ctsports.com. Get your merchandise. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Stay safe.
Love you guys.
Yeah.